This video briggity brought to you by NordVPN. Click the link in the description and use code BestGuyEver to get 73% off a 2-year subscription and protect your online activity today. Gamerzone. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Gamerzone, where we play the game of life and stay winning. I'm the best guy ever, but they also call me Nate and a few other names that aren't fit for public discourse. But it's lovely to be here back again. I've got some wonderful guests I'm very excited to introduce to you. First of all, we have the Masked Man. You know him from YouTube and talking about anime and other things. How's it going, dog?
Yo. Honored to be on here. Kind of caught me out of left field. I was on vacation, saw the message, and I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to have the opportunity. And so yeah, appreciate. For the love of Christ, I forgot to have. I had an alarm.
Goes the phone. He's getting a call. He's got important things to do. I understand. Ooh. Oh, you're so honored to be here that you can't even mute your fucking phone. I understand. I appreciate the care given to this operation here. It's lovely to have you. And man, you had to go. And the day before you were coming on here, release a goddamn Zyzz video about my hero, the greatest citizen. And the greatest global citizen of our time. But we can talk about him in a little bit. We've got, from the legendary channel Running Shine, that perhaps you've seen, we have Mello.
Hey.
What's up, dog? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
You guys might know him from his YIIK review that I'm a big fan of, and we will talk about. It's like 2 hours. It's real big. It's real juicy. Goes into a lot of detail. And that is a fascinating game with a lot of interesting things surrounding it. So I've got some. I'm gonna get to the heart of the issue with you. We're gonna suss that out.
Yeah.
All right. Good. And of course we have another old friend of mine. We have YIIK, aka Garnt. Hey man, what's up?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I thought you sent me a message. I haven't talked to you in 4 years. This is a good chance to catch up. What better way to catch up than on a podcast, right?
on the Gamerzone, which it does not escape my notice that you once had a show called the Anime Zone. This was not an intentional thing. For the record, there was no intention there.
For the record, I didn't know the name of this podcast until you literally just said it, and I'm just like, I wonder where you got that name from.
Finally, yes. No, that's all me. Just off the top of the dome. I like to name things as fast as possible so I can put the whole question of worrying about what I should name it behind me. But if there are potential copyright issues...
That's exactly how I came up with my name before as well, so I totally get you, man.
Yeah? Very, very wise policy. And, hell, we're going to talk about anime and video and all the other things important people care about in life. So, I've got a list of things. The great thing is, with each of you guys, there's a bunch of stuff that you've all been doing that I want to ask you about. So I'm very excited to get into it. But of course, we'll just go freeform and see where the conversation takes us. And hey, don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, or dislike it, because none of that shit matters anymore. I'm untouchable, baby. I'll never know if you don't like the video. And it feels good.
Has that already come into effect? I still see dislikes.
It has.
Oh, okay.
It took a little while for it to roll out for me, but it's there.
It takes time. So it's a thing where it depends on where you are and your cache and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm on a private browser, I don't see them. But if I'm on my public one, I do see my regular one.
Do you guys feel good about this? Are you excited to not get any feedback?
No, not excited about the lack of dislike. Actually, I don't know. I think it is a very good use of feedback for people to let you know, because oftentimes I really appreciate if they had an issue with the video that they'll take the time to leave a comment. I always really like those, but when somebody they don't have time for that, and if they just are I don't like this, just hitting dislike, it's a good way of just letting you feel like you at least got your voice out there. And so getting rid of that is to me, it's silly.
Yeah, nothing gives me a flaccid dick faster than, when you go in a video and you scroll down to the comments section and it's just their comments are disabled and likes and dislikes are disabled. I don't know. So to me, that's half of the YouTube experience. So taking away something that can put my opinion out, even if it's just a little bit, just that's not a good thing for me at all.
Did they officially change the motto from broadcast yourself yet? Or is that just memes I've seen to broadcast corporation or whatever it is?
I don't think it's that on the nose. But yeah, I could see them slowly getting out of that, because it is weird. I see a lot more of just big news sites and everything having their stuff, it'll always get like pushed up to the top and a lot of that. And it's, I don't know, it feels a lot less. It's very different than it was 10 years ago.
Well, of course, they claim, from what I've seen, like the those things when you go to the YouTube studio, they have the videos on the side that say like check out the current YouTube discussion from the development team or whatever it is. You'll see those, and they were saying that like the main goal, this is what they say, is to protect like small creators from getting dislike bombed or something. Which, I'm sure there are times when such a thing has happened.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. Like, having talked to a lot of creators, I have not talked to a single person who has ever experienced this problem. Like, that's just me though. So I don't know if it's just my field and the people around me, but I've never actually talked to someone who's actually been like a victim of a dislike bomb.
That's definitely an interesting data point, considering I have heard like it complained about from like YouTube's like the YouTube Rewind. Now those people do, it seems like it's the bigger people who actually care about this, and that they're just silencing a little bit of that dissent that might be a healthy feedback mechanism, but I don't know.
That's what I think this all is. I think it's a lot of it. Like if you look at anytime, it's really funny at this point, because if you look at like any news story, like I was bringing up how there's like CBS and a lot of these news things, they're moving to YouTube now because it's easier to get the news out that way, because a lot of people are leaving cable. And it's a thing where it's like you go to any video, like doesn't matter what they're covering, if it's like pro-Republican or anti-Republican, like pro-Democrat, anti, it's like it's all always just disliked, like so heavily, and it cracks me. I always just click on them. I'm like, I want to see how many dislikes it has so I can laugh at it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up.
I guess those things, they draw the opposition pretty strongly of whatever case it is to say they hate it or something. Yeah,
for sure.
So I mean, that's definitely something that's happening. But I mean, it seems to me the obvious solution is simply give the uploader the option to turn it on or off per video. You can already turn off likes or dislikes. Just make this another option. But it feels like they want the cover like, oh no, we would never turn off likes or dislikes. It's just that YouTube has this I don't know. It just seems a little sus.
The thing that bothers me the most is the way that they framed it to be like, yo, guys, we're doing you guys a favor. We're looking out. We're looking out for you guys. You can thank us later. Don't worry. Thank us later. We're doing an amazing job. But that's the thing that really bothered me about their announcement and how they went about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Keyword seems to be out of touch.
Yeah.
Possibly being devious, a little bit of deviousness behind the scenes.
The biggest thing that I'm going to miss is like going like searching up a tutorial or like trying to debug a problem and searching up on YouTube and immediately knowing which ones are like the worthless ones and which ones are the tutorials that are actually good.
Very true. It's almost like there was actual utility to the system, but no need for that anymore, I guess. How exciting. Remember the old 5-star rating system we used to have like a decade ago? That was something.
It's weird. Yeah, I feel like they've been slowly trying to kind of get rid of ratings ever since Google took over all. And I'm not like, oh, Google, they had to take it over. Like YouTube would not have been able to maintain the bandwidth that it needs to keep all the videos if it wasn't for a giant company like Google having
it's a financial drain every year, as I
understand. Yes, they lose money every year on YouTube. And they try to do all these things to make it better, but and that's why you're never really going to see a competitor to YouTube unless it's like a peer-to-peer kind of system, or you have like a federated kind of system. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like they're just constantly trying to remove like these little aspects of it like that. Like it's crazy if you look at even like 2009 and 2010, you could have like a whole bio about yourself, like your favorite movies. So it was like a mix of like MySpace and like Google Video. That was kind of like what it used to. And now it feels like all of that. It's like just removing features all over the place. And
imagine having customization in 2021, right?
Yeah, they're kind of doing the Apple approach. It feels like streamlined, all size fits one or whatever it is. Which, hey, some of that's inevitable, I guess. But I would love to know that like I haven't heard a single positive voice. Is any of this feedback breaking that ceiling to like get through to the people who it might be useful for them to hear? I have no idea, and I don't know how you would even track such a thing. So I guess I just give up.
Yeah.
Lol. That's life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend I know what kind of data YouTube are looking at to have come to this decision, but all I can say is, as a user and as a content creator, it just seems like it doesn't even help anyone that I know, and it actually removes the functionality that we talked about and the usefulness that we talked about as well. Because even if there's a video that you can't dislike, users are going to find a way to show their dislike for this content or this video, as we've seen with Twitter ratioing. Twitter doesn't have dislikes, but you can. People have found a way to show their dislike to a certain tweet, even though you can't dislike it.
And so what are they going to do? Is it just a treadmill of finding more ways to prevent feedback from getting to the creator? I mean, I guess we could play that game. Or you could, I don't know, adapt to it and find some healthy way to manage it. I don't know.
The year is 2050. All content on YouTube is auto-generated. You cannot like or dislike anything.
God, take me there, please.
You just consume. Just consume.
You're so right, though, that, people are going to find a way to create this system of knowing whether or not people liked this video or not. And it is going to be, we're going to look at the views versus the like ratio, and they're going to use that just to figure out all of a sudden, if this is a good video worth their time or not, which is even... It's like you're giving people lessons. They're still going to make a judgment, but they're just not going to actually, they don't get the feedback right away. So they're having to make this whole thing. It doesn't seem like, again, it works for anybody, except for maybe I'm not going to say obviously I don't know anybody that supports this system. But I'm sure they exist, but it's a thing where it's it seems very niche, and it seems like they're appealing to this tiny part of YouTube that making everyone else hurt just so this tiny portion can maybe be happy, but even then I don't even know if they are happy.
It feels like a consolidation of power, a consolidation of their position in a board game chess move Lelouch kind of way. You know?
Because as content creators ourselves, do you guys get bothered by the dislikes to your videos? Do you even pay attention to that?
Nah.
It is a useful... I see it, and it's a useful feedback mechanism, because, I mean, I don't know. It's very normal for me to get... this isn't even that good, but, if you're making something good within your normal parameters, you'll get, a 95, 98% like ratio. If not, something's different, and maybe you expected that. Maybe you're talking about something controversial or giving a contrary opinion that you expect. Like, what if I were to make a video saying ReZero is good? Now, I know people would hate me, because I would luckily I would never say something like that. So, but if I did, that you could use that mechanism to see what the people think about it, and if they're enjoying it.
I do think that whole thing, though, with Gig bringing up the question about the likes, dislikes, it's one of those things that after a while, as a content creator, they're just kind of there. So it's you never take them personal, but I think them existing helps you kind of remember and realize that there is a contrary point of view to something you are discussing. And it was brought up earlier about how I genuinely, from what I've seen on YouTube, it only really seems to benefit news channels. Genuinely, because now it's one of those things where if I go to see something that's broken out in the news, sure, especially here in the United States, everything seems to be politically motivated by either or party, but at least you can look at the video, and that's the first thing I go. I'm like, okay, how many dislikes? And you could just see the amount of, and honestly, it fills me with so much hope to see how many people despise the corporate media that we have here in the United States.
Yeah.
So I feel like taking that away just kind of, it's like... I don't know. It's just a really weird way to kind of hide that,
Those are their buddies. They're reliable sources of uploads for YouTube, for traffic, which is obviously the name of the game. They're trying to so you can totally understand why an authority would try to prop that up in whatever way they can to give them a better experience, to facilitate their viewership, because unlike the way that YouTube started, which was let's let people go crazy and upload what they want and hopefully be creative and spark something interesting, which is hopefully the idea behind probably all of us here and many other people who are out there making stuff. It just makes sense. They want to just play it safe, and benefits and negatives to that.
It started up as a very startup kind of culture site where it was very much we're going to let people do this and it's going to be this really fun thing. And that's a big reason for the success. But I think that, they've been Google's been slowly trying to lock it down and make it more and more kind of secure. And also, especially when advertisers, because you got to remember 10 years ago, no one was putting ads on YouTube except for people that were partner channels, which is 1 in 1,000, almost no one was doing that. I think now that advertisers are such a big part of YouTube now, they're really concerned about making sure that stuff is friendly towards advertisers and works a lot for those kind of advertisers, that there's not going to be all this controversy with the site and all these kind of things, and
they definitely don't like that. No business likes controversy to be around them.
They don't like. Yes, they don't want any of that.
Yeah, because I was having a conversation earlier, and I was saying that I don't think, with the way YouTube has changed, I don't think someone as influential as Filthy Frank could exist on the platform as he did back then. You know,
he eated himself. You know, maybe out of interest, but he knew.
Yeah, and I just think that shows how much the landscape has changed, and just how much YouTube as a platform has changed as well. Because I've certainly had to change some of my content subtly, just because I know that some things that I might have posted before that were like on the line are very much like beyond the line now in 2021. So like the line is constantly getting more and more towards that safe side of things.
Indeed. I think we all kind of see it happening.
I'm gonna miss going to Jimmy Fallon videos and disliking all of them and seeing all
I'll miss it deeply.
It's so funny. He's like playing Scrabble with some celebrity and everyone's just shitting on him. It's so innocent.
There is just some catharsis when you see a shitty video and you instantly see, everyone else also thinks there's a shitty video. I'm not the only one here.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely true. Well, hey, on the subject of like feedback mechanisms, like the big thing I wanted to talk to you about, Mello, was your big old YIIK video, which has made the rounds, and that came out like January 2020, so it's been out almost 2 years now, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. And like it was funny. You messaged me. I think you sent me an email being like, "Hey Nate, I think you said you were friends with Cybershell, right? You guys know each other?"
Yeah. Me and Cy, we stream every once in a while, and
oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy that I hang out with.
He's a great guy. Big fan of his.
Yeah.
I happened to be having a conversation with some people about the YIIK video and like the public reception of YIIK, which frankly, the discussion of YIIK in general has been a fascinating topic to watch,
really
like since it came out like 3 years ago. And I'd watched your video in part, and I was talking with some people, and then you messaged me, and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I was thinking to myself, would love to discuss with this guy or somebody about this fucking video. Yeah. And so like the conversation I was having was that like there's a lot of talk about this game being like overly criticized, and that its sins are like overly exaggerated. And I heard somebody saying that like, well, you know who's responsible for that? It was that one guy who made that video that was way overly harsh on YIIK. And the first thing I did was check the upload date of your video, which was like a year after it, but kind of before, I don't know, like it was 2 years ago. Any discussion going on now, I was like, there's no way he could be responsible for like everything going on with this. And also it might all be warranted. So, I had to go check it out for myself. And basically, it looked to me like the game, I haven't played it, full disclosure, but I knew from the first second of seeing that game that it was not for me, and I had no interest in playing this game. The design of the main character, the endless talking that was just so repulsive, and fully voice. I'm ready to do away with voice acting.
Yeah.
Dead ass. Get rid of it. No more voice acting in any game, especially a wordy game, ever again.
So the story behind that, right, is that their publisher forced them to do that. They had an indie publisher.
Really?
And one of the most interesting things about the game is that that publisher was so fucking, like, intense on them because they had, there's a big story where they're, because they made the game partly in dedication to their mother who was dying of cancer. And so she was, they were forced to have to work on the game while they were, like, visiting her and seeing her. So, like, they can't even give her their full attention. They're having to work on, that must be, like, the most horrific thing in the world, that, like, your mom is dying and you're making fucking YIIK. You're having to write this stupid shit. And
that makes me say YIIK just thinking about it.
And so it's strange to me because I have like a lot of sympathies for the guys because they kind of got put in a bad situation. And I also always, like, at the very beginning of my video, I always say, like, it's hard to make a game like this. They spent 6-7 years. This is two guys. I'm gonna give them some baseline of respect because if you can see something through to the end with that, even if it's not a good product, I can't help but praise you because I've known a lot of people that do games and they do it as like little hobbies or they do it as other things. They literally will just drop it, especially something that's of that scale. They want to do a big RPG. Almost no one's able to make their big RPG,
I was going to say, this whole idea that like you're being overly critical or the game or anything like that, if like the very beginning of your video was such a nice way to begin it, showing respect for these guys for working on it, and which is, you know, fully warranted and stuff.
Because I do respect people that can release things and can do things like that. And so I did.
Yeah.
And a big part of the reason I wanted to do that is because I learned about YIIK because I got a recommendation on YouTube from a person talking about it. And they were super like schmarmy and being like, oh, this dumb thing. And they're saying like, you should just play this other game called Gris. And it just looked so stupid to me. It didn't look like a fun game at all either. I don't know why they're like, go to this, not this one. But I don't know. YIIK looked kind of interesting to me because they showed like the first factory hotel area, and I was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting visually. I love RPGs. I'm playing Final Fantasy V right now. You know, I'm all about that
Hell
kind of
yeah.
shit. So
Butts is my boy.
yeah, for sure. And so I'm totally ready to, you know, I wanted to give it a shot, and I played it, and it's like the big thing with it, the big reason I wanted to make the video on it is because everybody gets really hung up on these little things. They're like, why is this Elisa Lam like insert in the game? Like, why is she there at all?
Right.
That's a big problem with the game. I don't think that is a big problem with the game because it's like, what I always bring it back to Neutral Milk Hotels in the Aeroplane Over the Sea, which has like Jeff Mangum like crying about Anne Frank and I wish I could save her, you know, like it's the exact same kind of thing. And that's a masterpiece album. I mean, maybe not if you're like, oh, that's hipster shit, which it is, you know, but
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
But it's a thing where that can get a bunch of praise and that does that thing. So that's not the issue. Even if you fix that, it's still not a great game. And also, if you fix everyone even gets hung up on the dialogue, which I definitely wasn't a fan of.
I mean, it's easy to get hung up on it when it's 90%
so
of
much
the runtime of the game.
But even if you fixed all of that, it's still not fun to play. Like the main thing I wanted to go in with that game is that like combat is super not satisfying. It's not fun to play the RPG, which is like, it's not enjoyable to do all the things you do in an RPG. Your party isn't an engaging party. If you ever look at cutscenes within YIIK, characters are almost never interacting with one another. They kind of just like talk at each other. And that's mostly what the thing is. So I never feel like there's any chemistry between like Claudio or Rory or anything. Like they exist in their own world. They don't have interactions. They don't have relationships with each other. So I can't really get invested in them as like, yeah, this is my party. And it also doesn't help that there's way too many characters that are there in the first place. Like the Essentia is really not all that important. It really, like, if you ask me, like, if they were going to do a thing with YIIK, I would have like wanted it. It's like they should have cut it down to just like Alex, Rory, Vela, and like Claudio, and it should have been about those guys, and they're trying to solve this mystery, and they should do the whole postmodern thing about like how it's don't get all lost in this internet stuff. It could ruin your life. Don't get all lost in all this. It's felt like a game that's just like also narratively they're trying to do way too many things with it. That's like
sure.
The biggest problem. Like they're biting off more than they can chew, and they don't have very much time to work on the game. And the other big thing I'd say with it is that, like, oftentimes when you're making a game with and you've only got like a couple of people, you have to think about like the scope of what you can do. Like, what are your skills and how can you do it? And it's very clear that like they're not very keen on animating in 3D. They're not like super comfortable with it. So like almost nothing's ever moving. There's no like characters kind of just like stand flat with the same animation with everything, which is like that kind of works in 2D if you're like doing something that's very minimal. Like that won't really bother people, but in 3D it just feels very off. They kind of just like rotate to see you, and it's a very strange thing. And it's like, in a way, I wouldn't have minded if like they're bad at animation. If they just did animate it and it's bad, I would almost kind of just respect it because they're trying something out of their range, but they're really going for it. But it does seem like they just kind of cut too many corners, and the game is kind of spread out so thin that like it's 20 hours, but the content that's actually kind of interesting is so like spread throughout. And I think if you look at the people that dropped that game, they're playing like the first little bit, the hotel bit, and they're like, oh, okay. They're like, maybe they're making fun of the dialogue, they don't like it, but they're still playing it. And then after that part where you got to get Michael and you go back, and then you have to go all the way to Rory's place, you got to talk to him, and you got to go to the sewer. By the time people are in the sewer, they're like done with it, because it's just the pacing is also just kind of off with it. But I'm like, you're kind of understand what I'm trying to get at here, though.
Well, I was gonna say, like, you're giving me all these points specifically about the game because you're like taking the game seriously, and you're like critiquing it on its own merits for the things that it's actually do.
Yeah.
But, and like, it seemed like in your video, you talked about like a lot of the discourse was not even about that. It was about like, is it in bad taste to make a reference to that girl who died in that elevator. I mean, maybe, kinda. Like, I thought, when I saw that in the video, I was like, well, this just seems like a kind of cool homage to, like, a fairly famous, like, I guess you could call it an urban legend. Maybe that's a little uncouth.
Yeah. It was huge. It was huge on the internet. I mean, like, everybody that was into that kind of weird, spooky shit was into that case.
So, like, in that sense, you're honestly being, like, kinder to the game than other people had been. And these are, like, all these other factors that people are inserting.
Yes.
And you know, it reminds me, I made a video about the Ghost in the Shell live action movie that came out in the West. I think that video was like 2 years ago or something. And the whole video, I felt a kinship with you, because, like, the whole video, I'm reviewing it. I'm a huge Ghost in the Shell fan. I, like, did a bunch of deep dives so I could, like, thoroughly critique the movie based on, like, the strengths of the series versus, like, the origins, the manga, the other movies and stuff. And by the time I finished, or rather, like, as I was doing that, I was aware that the actual discussion of that movie that was going on publicly didn't give a shit about Ghost in the Shell.
No.
Nobody cared about, like, Masamune's fucking vision and, like, the futuristic world that he's presenting. It was just about, is it fucked up that Scarlett Johansson played, like, a Japanese,
it was the culture
and there's so many ways that it doesn't even matter that a cybernetic body, like, that a brain was put into is not, like, that whole thing, it just frustrated me because they were missing the point so hard.
Right.
And I wanted to talk about my various problems with the goddamn movie, but nobody else cared. So, like, 3 years later, I made that video or something.
You got to remember that at the time before my video came out, if you looked at any thread about YIIK, anything and discussing YIIK, it was all, there was just so much stuff that flat out, like, wasn't true. Like, people would put this one guy that was at a convention that kind of looked like Alex. He had, like, he's kind of ginger, had a beard and stuff. And they'd say, this is Andrew Allenson. It's a self-insert character. They'd, like,
just making that up.
Yeah, they're just making shit up, and it cracks me up. Like, it made me laugh really hard, but I did want to be like, so that's why, like, in that video, if you notice, whenever I bring up Andrew, I'm putting his face on screen, so you can be like, that wasn't him. This blonde guy is Andrew Allenson. And yeah, I tried to be, even though, I mean, it's a comedy video, I'm trying to make jokes, so it's a little bit more harsh just because of that little bit, and it's also straight. It's like the only semi-negative review I've ever done. I'm usually always, like, super positive, and that's why, like, if you watch that video, a big thing I'm doing is I'm trying to, like, this is being done very poorly, and then I'll show a bunch of examples of RPGs I like, kind of doing the things that I'm wanting it to kind of go through with it more, and it's, I don't know, it's so strange to me that they made the battle system as bare bones as it was, because it feels like they're almost reluctantly making the RPG. They're not really putting thought into, like, every enemy acts basically the exact same. They either do an AoE or they just hit one character really hard. And then the rest of them are just, all the bosses act very, very similarly. Like, the most they'll do is maybe summon some enemies around it, but that doesn't really matter because your AoE attack, you've got the LP toss, it kills everything in one hit. So there's no real point. Like, there's the point, like, if they really focused on that, I think, like, even with all the problems, like, you could at least have, like, a pretty interesting RPG. I want to avoid saying fun, because some people will be like, well, it's not supposed to be fun. This is, like, a serious thing.
That's a tricky word.
But it's a thing where it's like, what I'm saying, this is not, the RPG should be getting me more invested within this game's story and within this game's characters to make me more excited when these kind of crazy things happen and I'm more invested, and they should be feeding into each other. And instead, I'm getting tired of both of them. It's not contributing to that way at all. And I know that the Allensons have talked about, we want people to play this game like a second time because there's all this hidden stuff and you can only really understand certain things in hindsight. But I feel like they don't understand. Most people are working. They're not going to, like, come home and play a 30-hour RPG.
Who plays an RPG a second time in general? It's very rare.
If I'm replaying an RPG a second time, it's like years later, way, way later.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go and play it again. But there's this big thing where they're like, oh, well, we should, there's all this hidden stuff, and that's cool. But the thing is that I don't understand if they had that, why they didn't work on some kind of New Game Plus, or why they didn't focus more on these things.
Add that visual novel skip text button. That would do miles to improve if you want people to explore.
And, well, a huge thing is that you bring up visual novels. I don't know, because they seem so reluctant to do the RPG, I wonder why they even felt the need doing the first. There's a lot of really high quality visual novel or like kind of visual novel-esque games. Some people, I know there's some controversy about calling like Phoenix Wright a visual novel or Hotel Dusk a visual novel, but like those games,
it counts.
Like Hotel Dusk, for instance, is like a great game. That game has tons of dialogue. It's a very wordy game, and it's very much like a character-focused game. They could have done something simple like that, and they could have kept their resources low. They could have done this kind of interesting storytelling stuff with it that they kind of wanted to do, I think, just as well than if there was, this RPG system that it doesn't really need to be there. Because again, there's no real chemistry with this party. I don't feel like I'm not getting pumped to like fight against this boss with my pals, because I don't feel like they're my friends at all. It's a very, I don't know, it feels disconnected, I think is the big thing I'd say. It's a crazy thing because I keep thinking about it. I always end up like thinking about it again because it's such an interesting kind of game. I think that is like a big thing I haven't talked about before is that I did make that video. Like a lot of it was like, if they could make, work on this thing for 6 years and it like, they tried their best with it. And I like RPGs. I'm kind of their audience a little bit. I like weird storytelling. I like this kind of stuff. I should at least maybe dedicate, like I could probably dedicate 5 months and maybe at least actually genuinely tell that, like maybe at least get out there what the actual problems with this game are that aren't just, at least that aren't just these cultural things that people got mad at them about.
Maybe they were rushed, maybe with like some more play testing, they could have done some things like polish up the battle system because they'd get like, hey, these attacks take a little too long. It's not punchy. It's not,
Exactly. If you know what I've been looking at is if you look at Final Fantasy X, that game's controversial in its own right, but if you look at the battle system, it's so like quick. Like you're able to put in your next command with your next character before the other guy's even done recovering from his animation. Like you can just go so quickly. And it's so strange that they would just, I feel like if you want to do something in a game, like if you want to do art, if you want to do music, right, you have to like look at people that have done things that you're kind of aiming to do and you got to study them and you got to see how they're kind of doing it. And with games, it's the same thing. You kind of reverse engineer how they're doing it. Maybe you look at things frame by frame and see like what the kind of timing is of the spacing. Are they using like a sound effect for this part? So you can kind of replicate it. But it just, it feels very like I don't know. I don't want to say that they didn't put effort in. They definitely did. It's just that I feel like the effort went to weird places that it didn't need to go.
And plus, they're like an indie studio. Their priority, they probably don't have the same kind of like producer above them who's like, these are the fundamentals. You need to get these things right. They're kind of, I mean, like as a YouTuber, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just trying to make a video here that I liked Deltarune. I'll make a video about that.
Yeah.
I hope people like it. Maybe the video should be 15 minutes and not 24 minutes. Am I fucking up real bad that way?
And their producer, again, their producer seemed super shitty because they were saying you have to get all these big people to come and do voices for your game, which that's a huge problem because it means you can't rewrite your script. It means you can't edit the story in any meaningful way because that stuff's going to be locked in stone the second you get Kerbifer coming on, and he's, I'm sure, worth a decent amount of money. He was like in a bunch of anime dubs and stuff. And now you can't go and like just get him back. You can't go and rewrite it. That's going to cost more money instead of if they just didn't do the voice acting, or even if they wanted to have some voice acting, they could have done it like I'm really into the World Ends With You games. They could have done what they do in that first game where it's like there's some little bits like the characters will kind of yell or they'll do something to kind of emphasize certain parts of dialogue.
I'm a big fan of the little bits.
Yeah.
That's a good way to go.
It's a great way to do it because then you get voices, you kind of get in it like I can kind of think that's what that character sounds like, and then I can project that onto the rest of the dialogue. And it's even better because my like kind of inflections I'm going to put into them is going to be my ideal of how that character should sound. So it's going to be better than, all the voice acting in the world.
That's a real lost science, I think, this letting the viewer like fill in the gaps within their own mind. That is such an important element. I think as like technology improves, I have this video Mickle where I talk about like a bunch of stuff about like the game industry, but it applies to the industry across the board. But specifically with games, it's like the ability to use more and more complicated technology. There's such a temptation to just escalate the complexity of the stuff you're doing and add voice acting and, I don't know, make it 3D when it could have been 2D and been just as good or maybe even better because there are unique strengths to the 2D medium. Like you were saying with YIIK. YIIK has downsides probably because it's 3D and these guys aren't experts in 3D yet. There's going to be a learning curve there. So there's a lot of downsides to just, I don't know, advancing and making things more fancy looking and, I don't know. I don't have any solutions, but I just hope people keep those things in mind.
I will say that I have not played like they've been updating the game a little bit. So it seems like, because I think they made enough money to break even, and I'm pretty sure because of the game's kind of popularity, they were able to break even, make some money, and I think now they're patching it and they're trying to fix it. And I've heard, I haven't played it yet. I want to wait until they have it all finished, so I can kind of play that. And maybe I'll do a little follow-up to kind of say what I think about some of these changes they've made. But one of the big ones I know that they're wanting to do is they are wanting to revamp the RPG to make it more RPG like. They want to have the status effects, they want to do all that, and that's the main hope I have, is that they kind of can make it more, interesting, a more interesting kind of battle system, and, try and do their best with it. But my main thing I want them to do is probably just make a new game. It's much better to kind of start fresh.
Yeah.
Maybe do the things that were really bothering you and fix those, and then kind of move on to your next thing.
That's a very good idea. Very important process.
I feel kind of bad because I remember another motivation for wanting to make the video was that there was a lot of anger towards him based on Andrew Allenson, because after the game is released, he's getting all this bad feedback. People are getting very angry at him because of, all of these things. And then he's scheduled to go on, of all things, Dick Masterson's show to kind of talk about his game. And he gets super mad, and he's kind of venting. He's talking about how he's pissed off at it. And I know that's kind of part of the show, is Dick Masterson's thing. He wants you to kind of rage about stuff. So Andrew's getting super pissed off, and he's yelling, and he's not yelling, but he's like, these people, they just don't, they're not even giving it a chance. And I really sympathized with that whole thing, where it's it's not even like they're playing it. And I imagine that if everybody was kind of doing what I did, they gave it a real shot, they're giving real feedback. From what I've seen, they actually take legitimate feedback well on what the game's problems are, like the RPG system, or the pacing and certain. They'll actually take that stuff seriously. It's more just the fact that it got so steeped up in all of this culture stuff that people, they just got so frustrated with it. And a big part of that discussion is he said the thing where it's you can't, he said he wanted to make something, this is one of the most confusing things about them, is they said, I wanted to make something that was like art, but gamers aren't ready for art, or something like that. They don't want interesting characters with problems and stuff like that. And I always thought that was I still am confused about that, because this is a postmodern RPG, right? This is supposed to be about that kind of whole thing. But after Impressionism and stuff, and especially after the whole Duchamp shit, especially where he's given the art gallery shovels, that's where art doesn't really mean anything anymore. Isn't that kind of the whole point, where it's it's art, galleries don't matter? And especially now with the internet, I feel you should just make whatever you want. You shouldn't care about if it's art or it's not art. You should just make what you want to, have fun with it, and the people that like it will like it. I don't understand this weird, it's always been something that's confused me, even back in 2010, people were really obsessed with this games as art thing. People were it's not good enough that Donkey Kong is a fun game. Donkey Kong needs to be in the Smithsonian, next to the dinosaur bones. It needs to be all these yuppies from New York, need to go and look at Donkey Kong on a screen so that they can know that this is a valid hobby or something. I feel there's a lot of desperate people, are very desperate, I think, to have this medium validated and have it respected. But to me, that's going to happen automatically, because at some point, all these people grew up playing games, they're going to become old yuppies themselves, and they're going to talk about, oh yeah, video games are important.
They'll be like us, old and decrepit in time. That's true. It's it just takes time. Movies took a long time for them to get respected in yuppie culture. It's all this stuff does. It's it just takes some time, but people are so desperate. They're it needs to be this thing. And I feel there's this weird thing where they feel it needs to be the super weird, interesting kind of story with this flawed thing to be this very artistic thing, and that it can't just be the kind of thing you want to do, and that if people don't like it, it's because it's an issue with, they just don't understand it. They don't get art, and it's the fact that the game is called a postmodern RPG was that definitely sets it apart. And it really reminded me, hearing you cover the story and the events of the game and whatnot. It reminded me of my favorite postmodern work of all time, Homestuck Act 6 and beyond.
What happens? I'm not a Homestuck guy.
Well, that's good. Look, Homestuck was the best thing ever. for acts 1 through 5, most of the story. Act 6 is actually longer than every single thing that came before it. So actually, it's more bad than good. Look, hey, go watch Arm Retrieval if you can find archives or whatever. I did a show with a friend of mine, Munchie, years ago. I don't know if it still exists, where we talked about it. But there's a famous line. There's a famous line from one of the characters, Dave Strider. This man is a character in a comic. This is one of the ending bits of the Act 6 nightmare, where things get endlessly navel-gazing and self-analytical, and it's a huge waste of time. And it's that Dave Strider says, like he's saying to another character, like, we are just human beings. We don't have arcs. Yeah. Says this character in a story who had an arc that meant things. And this is where I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't happen every time. Postmodern art is a destructive force. It has things to it's a critique of culture. That's all fine. But far too often, people who are very impressed with themselves, they use the veneer of postmodernism as a shield from having to actually use time-tested methods, such as finishing a fucking story. Yeah. And instead they can deflect to, oh, no, it's about, like, we're analyzing the human experience. That's exactly what the Dave Strider thing was. It sounded like this idea that you're not supposed to like the main character of YIIK. I was talking with some people about that after I watched your video. Yeah. And we just thought to ourselves, like, we were trying to think of one single main character of a game. And you guys, feel free to chime in too if you think of anybody, because I could not think of a single fucking game character I actively didn't like. I thought of, like, Yuri from Tales of Vesperia, who is, like, revealed to be an assassin, and like, oh my god, is he bad? Is he good?
Yes.
So, like, at a time, but no, it's actually, like, it's for the best. He does some morally dubious things. He's actually a good guy, and like, the point, at no point in the game are you just annoyed by his presence. It is not that it's too smart. And, you know, there's a question to ask. You can make postmodern art out of anything, but should you? Should you make a game that is simply irritating to play and it feels viscerally bad? Because that's the point. You know, I'm not saying this is YIIK exclusively, but
you know. Alex, to me, the biggest issue I had with Alex is that I don't feel like they made him unlikable enough. They keep trying to. It's like a lot of the things where they try to put him in these situations where they make him a really terrible guy. It's like, I know some people have disagreed because I kind of am like, well, this one character, there's a point in this game where the character, this one character leads them, strings them along through this thing, like all night, puts them in danger. And then it turns out that what they were trying to get, the guy was delusional and they couldn't get it, and put them basically in danger for no reason. And then says, like, well, my sister died and stuff. And Alex says, dude, no one cares. It's this famous thing at this point where he goes, dude, no one cares about your dead sister right now. It's classic. But it's a thing where it's like, well, I can understand. Maybe that's not cool, but I get it. I understand why he'd be mad about that. Like, I can at least empathize with the frustration. And I think that's a huge... Like, they don't make him, I feel like they don't go, and I think that's a big problem with YIIK in general, is I feel like they want to be too subtle too much of the time, when I think they need to, like, games and any story, they kind of hit you over the head, like, subtly all the time with, like, what you're supposed to be feeling with a character, what you're supposed to be doing with that.
But you know what's the most important thing to do about a game like, you know, you were saying before, it sounded like these guys want... it's hard to separate useful criticism from, like, just mean-spirited, didn't even play the game, it's shit. You know what we need to do? We need to turn off every available valve. You hear that, YouTube? Let's turn off every feedback mechanism. We don't need any of that around here. It's best if we don't hear anything except, like, a wave of hatred that you can't identify any useful points in. That sounds like the plan for me. Hey, listen, we've been talking about this game for a long time. Sure. Let's take a pause on that and talk about some other stuff with these guys. How you guys feeling? Have you enjoyed this?
I feel
this
so bad. Everybody, like,
no, don't feel bad.
Giga and Mass have just been sitting here in silence.
I didn't want to interrupt.
You guys don't know about video games, do you? You don't know a damn thing.
Dude, I barely have enough time to watch anime, let alone play video games.
Well, if you're watching the seasonal stuff, that can take even more of a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I say one more thing really quick, though?
Yeah, sure, of course.
The last thing I wanted to say is that there's a lot... It's strange that it really wants to put this whole postmodern thing with it, because I feel like a lot of game stories, and especially like a lot of RPGs, are very kind of like, they have a lot of postmodern stories. Like, even in FF7, it's like one of the biggest RPGs of all time. Cloud is kind of unreliable. He's the main protagonist. Turns out that he's kind of a fraud. There's this whole thing with it. I mean, like, it doesn't have, like, necessarily the author talking to you, but it's got a lot of postmodern story type things. And even then you can kind of say because of the era, all video games are technically postmodern art. So it's I don't know, it feels like there's a lot of opportunities. It's nothing necessarily too special.
To be uncharitable, is it maybe a case of, I'm not sure the word postmodern, I didn't play the game.
Yeah.
The word postmodern is like, it's like a meta type of art that is about reacting to the medium that is being discussed and like analyzing the responses. Like the one I always think of, the example is, there's a toilet in the Met. Everyone gathers around and look at it. The art piece is the crowd gathered around the toilet. Look, that is the art.
It's a mockery. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole...
Yeah.
And Duchamp, again, Duchamp was... His whole thing was, here's how much the art galleries are a joke. I can pay $200 and I can write my name on a urinal, turn it sideways, and a bunch of people are going to flock to it and look at it. Look at how funny that is.
Right.
I'm going to give them a shovel. I'm going to like...
It's almost like he's like responding to,
he's a troll.
overly
around.
propped up
Yes.
idols, kind of.
Exactly.
He's tearing it down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the whole point of that is that you were supposed to... I feel like what he was trying to do was do that to say, the art gallery's a joke. All of this shit's a joke. Do what you want to do. You're free. That's the whole point. You're not constrained to all this shit anymore. But for some people took it in the totally opposite direction, and especially the art galleries have been coping and seething ever since. They're like, what are we going to do? No, it turns out he was actually a genius. He was, we should all be just putting in these kind of things. Like and that's why art nowadays is just money laundering for billionaires, essentially, buying these things. Like, because it doesn't connect with average people anymore. They can't handle like real art. I think has gone in a different direction. It's more pop. It's everywhere.
You know, on Thanksgiving, I watched the musical Cats. I watched the new Cats. As I was watching it, I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, this is a money laundering operation. Red Letter Media blew this thing open years ago with Jack and Jill.
Yes.
This is pure money laundering. No one involved. Jason fucking Derulo as Rum Tum Tugger or whoever the fuck, some fucking cat, like Judi Dench, like Taylor Swift. What the? These people, they wanted to invest in this. By the way, Cats is a shit musical. I would know. I did it in high school. Do not watch it. Every song from fucking Cats is bad, and the plot doesn't make sense. That's postmodern right there.
Movie 43 is another one of those great examples of like money laundering movies. There's like all these like A-list celebrities and like the worst comedy of all time.
Right. Yeah, I remember that one.
All right, I'm done. I'm good.
Okay, that's fine. It
out
is
of the
interesting
system.
though. It feels, especially with our current culture. I mean, like the ideas of like all the remakes and even remasters and stuff. There's such a desire for. I'm not even going to be overly harsh about it, but just for very safe bets.
Yeah.
For a studio to cash in or attempt to cash in on stuff they think will do well. And with varying degrees, a lot of it's shit, and it's definitely a waste of time because it doesn't need to be done, you can always watch the original. Okay, anyway, beyond that, let's talk about some new things by talking about a man who died a few years ago, who I deeply love, and who you made a video about yesterday, Mask. Zyzz, my hero, my idol, the man who inspired me when I was young.
He's gonna be a sick cunt.
He's gonna be a sick cunt, and we're all gonna make it, brah. So you just discovered him the other day, or like recently with the meme resurgence of that guy?
Right, yeah. I kind of discovered him about like a month and a half ago, 2 months, and it could not have come at a more appropriate time. We all have moments in our life where I think we become extremely imbalanced, like we focus on one thing a little too much, and it kind of consumes all our time. And I think this whole YouTube thing kind of did that.
Yeah, you've been grinding.
Yeah, but I like sabotaged my own channel, deleted all the videos, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Oh.
That was really stupid. No, I didn't private. I just wiped the channel.
Oh my
God. I had to get in contact with YouTube and be like, hey, so like I kind of messed up. So they've been in the process of restoring them all.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think just finding Zyzz at that time from the meme resurgence just really gave me like this insane inspiration and motivation to self-improve and kind of this like confidence that I feel like I've always been lacking.
Sure. I loved your video on it. It was just a great little, I mean, I'm a huge fan of his, and it just did a great job of summarizing how he's all about positivity and like you were saying, using like his masculinity and his, chadness to inspire people to improve themselves. God, that's inspirational. And him and my boy, Scooby 1961. I always get the number
The
wrong.
legend. I love
Oh, you're a
Scooby,
fan of Scooby
dude.
too? Yeah. Another fitness
I've
YouTuber.
watched. I've learned from him so much. The legend, dude. Like He taught me how to do proper push-ups and shit.
He taught me how to count calories. He taught me if it fits your macros. Man, the Fitboard on 4chan and Zyzz and Scooby, some of the best discoveries I made in my early days, quite a ways ago. But I mean, yeah, I didn't have much more to say than that. You should all go watch Mask's Zyzz video because it's great and learn about Zyzz.
So maybe I'm out of the loop, but who is Zyzz?
Oh my God!
So I am the audience right now. So can you explain to me?
Okay, so
tell us. Yeah,
I'll essentially, Zyzz was somebody who kind of blew up around the early stage of the internet, and he was like this giant fitness guy. He was this like extremely scrawny, intelligent kid who sold his gaming account for a gym membership. And he never. Mind you, I said this in my video disclaimer. He wasn't natural.
Yeah.
In fact,
Not
I think
natty,
a lot of But it was never about whether or not he took roids or not. But instead, like he kind of took what he had and he just gave off this incredible aura of like constantly motivating people and inspiring people. And I think that was like the real attraction to him. I was like, the guy had this immense confidence. He seemed like, you know, the Chad meme, but
like
younger
him in
and
real
in real
life.
life. That's what he was essentially. And he was always about like, man, just screw what the world thinks. You know, you're going to be a sick cunt. We're all going to make it. And he was kind of the one who popularized the phrase, you mad bruh, you Myron bruh. Like, that was him.
Zyzz,
Right.
I'll be Myron till the day I die, Zyzz. I will never forget.
Right.
Man, Garnt, we got to get you. We got to get you on Zyzz. We got to get you doing those squats, man. We got to get you benching. You got to be a sick cunt, man. We're all
wanna be a sick
going to
cunt,
make
man.
it.
Gigik's gonna be just swole as shit in his next video. Zyzz.
You know, the thing about Zyzz, so Zyzz died young, obviously.
Yeah, poor
he
guy.
died like
Right.
he died in like what was it, like a Singapore brothel or something, like of a heart condition or something
Yeah.
that seemed exacerbated by his, like, I think he did some drugs, but he definitely did roids and stuff. It seemed like these factors, dude. And I didn't even know his brother has a channel on YouTube. I had I've got to go check that out. I think he just made like a documentary about Zyzz. I got to go watch that like immediately. But so Zyzz was a guy who was like out of balance in life. He was living like an extreme life, and he used it for good.
Right.
And it occurred to me, you know who my favorite character of all time is? Of all time. It's not even close. It is Kamina from Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
Kamina is the greatest character ever conceived by man or beast.
Right.
And Kamina also died incredibly young. He didn't really need to,
Right.
in a reckless, foolish way, but he turned, like Gold Roger or like Zyzz, he turned his death into like a flame that ignited a revolution and inspired, you know, someone to carry on his legacy, Simone or whatever. So Zyzz is like the real life Kamina.
Kamina, yeah, he is, yeah.
God damn, man, that's all you needed to say. That's,
Yeah, right.
Nah, it's something. It's powerful. I'll say that it's powerful, especially and I'll end it with this, especially nowadays where I think it's kind of weird the way people try to, I think, encourage people. It's like the way that people try to encourage women and femininity is by like destroying men, and I feel like that doesn't really do anything, you know.
Yo, they just Myron, bruh. They can't handle it.
Right, yeah, they Myron, bro. But it's like, if you want to praise someone. You don't have to tear something else down in order to make, you know, whatever group you're trying to exalt look
Exactly.
better, or whatever the goal is, right?
You know what's one of the things that annoys me the most is when I go on Twitter, which no one should ever do.
Yeah, what are you doing?
But when I do, and I see like it's not a joke anymore, overly self-deprecating Twitter handles.
I hate that. I hate
It
that
makes
too.
me so
Yeah.
annoyed when I see like a guy or whatever say like depressed loser,
Yeah.
like nothing. I'm like,
Yeah.
there might have been an element of a joke here. You are taking it to an unhealthy level where I bet you wake up in the morning and you say that to the mirror every day. And I want to be like Zyzz, man, and say, you're going to make it, bro. We're all going to make it. You're going to be a sick cunt. You just got to, you know,
Right.
get your head on right.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the true beauty of it, man. Is like, it's like, no matter what you are, no matter, you know, what your preferences, beliefs are in life, like, self-improvement is for everybody, and you just gotta do what makes you happy and have confidence in that, not care what the rest of the world thinks. And I think it's such a simple principle that I think Zyzz, his resurgence could not have come at a better time.
Yeah.
Oh damn! I definitely got to check him out.
I'll send you some videos right now.
I'm actually going to check him out after this.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I do wonder what started that whole thing with like a lot of people online, where it's like it's cool to have no self-esteem and to think you're like worthless. I don't know what's up with that.
I think it got like construed because I think with the rise of the internet, introversion or just introverts suddenly became popular. And with the internet doing what it does, like it started off with introverts, and then it started off being cool, being like socially awkward, and then from that, I feel it just evolved or devolved into, wow, it's really cool to just hate your life and think your life is shit. And now self-deprecation has just become, it's not even ironic anymore. It's just people are just depressed, and it's just actually depressing now.
Yeah. You see, I'll see a lot of TikToks or something where people, I don't know, I'll see a girl dancing while like her like Thanksgiving dinner is like going to hell, and I just think to myself, she'll be there. There's like a silly video she's doing, and like her family is there like fighting intensely. I'm just making this one up, but it's things like this. Something horrible is happening, and they choose to film it, and I just think to myself, this is not a healthy way to live your life. No. And it sure is funny that you captured this moment. It's almost like selling your soul a little bit. Like you're not engaging with reality as if it were reality. I guess you're engaging with it in a postmodern way, as if it was like a story that you're simply reacting to. But you have to pick up the pieces in real life after this happens. And when I see it, I don't know. It's some factor of like wanting to make jokes that are like relatable, combined with like this idea of like getting famous online by getting like a viral clip. Creates a really bad feedback mechanism for people, I think. And my solution has been, I just don't want to be a part of that. I'm gonna live in the real world. I'm not gonna live in that dreamscape.
Yes.
Because I think especially with the problem with the internet and social media as well, is that social media definitely rewards you for making negative content, if that makes sense. Like positive content on any platform is way harder to get attention than negative content. And I think that's the problem, where the internet didn't always start off as negative, but it's just slowly over time slipped into this negative feedback loop, because that's the kind of content and that is what gets rewarded.
I've heard that psychologists analyze this factor, and there's lots of like videos on about YouTube about how when you treat them as like sociological phenomenons, it makes sense that the human brain has a way stronger reaction to something to be afraid of or to be angry about. Because, going back in history, if you're just living your life and something mildly pleasant happens, your whole genetic line has not been eliminated by them killing your whole family and killing you or whatever. Things are going fine. But if something bad, there's like a bear or, a virus is spreading around and killing everyone around here, that is way more of a problem. So it seems like that's somewhat in people's brains to just react more strongly to negative stuff.
It's a classic thing where if you ever, I know there was a study done at some point, I mean, being one of those guys, but there's a thing where a study was done at some point where they looked at like how much money would you be willing to like do on a bet with if you lose money, and I think they said it'd have to be twice as much money that I'd win versus what I'd lose. So people are very, very like averse to loss. They don't want to lose anything. Like that's way worse. That's twice as worse as winning anything. Like is losing something. So I think people. Yeah, they're attracted to it in a strange way. I mean, even with my thing, the YIIK video is by far like the most popular one, and I think it's partly because I think it's got a lot of effort and a lot of big things put into it, but it is also
it's a great video for sure.
Negative video on the thing. So I think people are attracted to it who love seeing things kind of get torn down in that way, and I think that's a general thing. I think I disagree that like the internet didn't used to be super negative. I remember like something awful was all it used to be. Like people would make fun of 9/11 as it was happening and all kinds of shit like that. Like this stuff is like it's been baked in since very early on, I think.
Well, edgy people have long sought out a format where they can be edgy. Which I understand. We all crave to express our darker side sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah, I guess I agree with that. I just remember a time when there was like a distinct separation from internet and real life, and then that just kind of like and then that just slowly blended together over time to be like, okay.
You guys ready to sign up for Meta? I'm excited to leave this whole physical world behind and jump into the The metaverse.
Dude, what are
exciting stuff?
I can't wait for Sword Art Online. Are you kidding me?
There is going to be, because that's made for offices, right? Like the metaverse. That's made for like, people are going to troll the shit out of that. There's no way that there's not going to be people going in just to fuck with all the people trying to get work done in the virtual. What a dumb idea.
Luckily, they will tie the account to your social security number, so the credit score organization will know that you're going to be deducted $500 from your bank account because it's all connected. How exciting! What a beautiful future we have in store. Hey, but on another note, I did want to also say, Mask. Like the original reason I asked you on was because of another videos of yours I really liked, which was the I can't watch anime video. Where you specifically said, check out this video, guys, and you were asking specifically, like, I have issues with anime. Anybody got, thoughts about this? Let me know. And I thought, I have some thoughts about this. I would love to talk to this guy. And then I remembered, I have a podcast. Let's see if he wants to come hang out. And for you guys and for everybody who hasn't seen the video, which you should definitely go watch, the gist, and correct me if I'm wrong, is basically you talk about how like you're mostly a manga guy, and your consumption of anime is you feel like a disconnect with what other people are telling you. Like you dropped like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which everyone says is the best anime ever.
Like 4 times.
You dropped it 4 times?
That ass 4 times. Well, actually, 3 times through the anime and twice through the manga. So
okay.
Anyways, yeah.
So I was just saying.
I apologize to everyone.
You were saying like what's wrong with me? What do I need to do? Am I binging too much? Is it like my mindset? Am I getting burnt out? Is that going to happen in manga too? And I was like, this is a fascinating subject, and I think about these things a lot, and would love to discuss.
Right.
And so when it comes to this, like I just wanted to first comment that like it seems like the issue mostly comes from the fact that you have taste. And you don't want to waste tons of your own time with consumable garbage, which luckily we have the expert of consumable garbage, Gigak, here to comment on the rest of the anime industry.
Yes. I mean, even just hearing the description of that video, like I relate heavily. Not just because I know plenty of people who are manga guys, but also I think it's just a part of growing up. And also there's 2 major things. One, it's growing up and knowing what your taste is, and really you don't have time to watch anything that doesn't pertain towards your very specific taste, because the older you grow, the less patience you get for shit that you have no interest in. And I think the second thing is a very like us specific thing, where watching entertainment media and watching things like anime and reading manga is directly tied to our job. So
you come at it a little bit different when you kind of have to do it.
We've sold our souls. We've sold our souls. We sold our rights to enjoy this to now have to.
Because I will never enjoy anime or manga in the same way as I did like 10, 15 years ago when I started YouTube, or before I started doing anime videos. Especially now that my job is directly tied to that. And, it's a sacrifice. That sucks, but also that's a sacrifice you make for getting paid to do this, and, having a life where you can make videos, literally make money, literally talking about anime and manga.
Which was a dream, a bit of a dream, at least when I was young. I assume with you guys. I mean, a lot of this didn't literally exist when I was very young. I remember when I was young, I remember the days when I had to buy a bootleg DVD copy of the original Full Metal Alchemist that's subtitled Wendy or Windy or Winry. It was a different name every single episode because a different Chinese sweatshop worker had hard-coded in the dub or the subtitles to every episode. And yet, if you wanted to watch Full Metal Alchemist, you had to have that shipped in from abroad. Those were the days. But now, of course, YouTube exists, and there's all these streaming websites that have popped up. And man, it's going to be so different when our generation has kids. And this kind of stuff has been there from the start.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, my friends are starting to, but when they grow up and consume this stuff. Okay, but and actually, Garnt, you were actually honestly surprisingly, I don't know, blackpilling about it, that it was a little bit more dark. I had a little more of an optimistic interpretation of the issue.
Really? Okay.
Which is, I think the guy just needs some good recommendations of stuff that specifically is a good use of his time, which is not all mine.
Tried Azumanga.io.
I think it could possibly be both.
Yeah.
for me, like the whole anime and manga thing, and I'm gonna sound like a fraud here to everybody, but screw it, mask off, no pun intended. I didn't really get into anime and manga like that until I had started my channel, basically.
Okay.
Beforehand, I had always been familiar with like Dragon Ball. That was the one I grew up on, and a little bit of video games, but my whole thing in life was sports. And that's what I did. That was my passion. That's what I fell in love with. And then in school, my final semester, my senior year of high school, I'm in like this editing class where we're working on like, editing videos, creating banners and posters and camera work and all that. And like me and my friends were always the class clowns. But in that class, we were the best. Like we got everything done the fastest, the highest quality, whatever. So they were all like, yo, why don't you start a YouTube channel? I was like, screw it, why not? And so now I'm here today. And as my channel has grown, that's because I've read more manga, and it's been a hobby that recently I've picked up. However, I did it in such a fast pace that I think I've burnt myself out to the point of near no return. Because there was a point, I went on vacation, and on vacation I read Rurouni Kenshin, which helped, I think, spark what I thought I had lost permanently, and that was my desire to have anything relating anime or manga. Because, man, I think all of the whole YouTube thing, along with reading all these stories and then not just being able to turn off your brain and just be like it, you have to be like, okay, I have to be able to explain why I like it. Because this is the standard that I've set for myself that people expect. Because if I don't explain why I do or don't like it, then, I'm just an idiot who's just talking out of his ass. So, yeah, but I'd love to hear some awesome recommendations. I'd be more than down,
I got one, actually, since you said you're really into sports and everything, right? I feel like you'd like, have you heard of Ping Pong, the animation? Have you tried that one out at all?
I haven't tried it out, but it is something that has been recommended to me before.
That one's really cool because it's the only anime I've seen where it really goes into like the whole like spirit of competition and like the different kinds of people that get really competitive about a sport and how like much they care about it. And it's like, it's so crazy. I've never seen like a story go like understand like those kinds of people like as well as that show has. It's
I wouldn't even call that a sports anime. It's kind of just a life anime. Like, my God, the life lessons very in that anime, like, they hit hard and they go beyond just people playing ping pong.
Well, what I love so much about it is that like I think my favorite part in that anime is this one bit where there's this one guy. It's like, I've practiced for so many years, and you've only been doing this for 2 years, and you beat me. I don't understand. And they like, the guy says like, well, here's the truth: is that you're just not that good at this. It's like, it's one of the most like I love, because it's so there's real.
Truth to
there's
that.
a lot of people like there's something like anime and a lot of like media in general. It's like, if you just try really, really hard, if you hit your head at the wall enough, you're going to be successful with it. And is this like the only time I've ever seen it just be so brutal? It's like, no, I'm just better than you.
Well, that sounds mean to say. The thing is, like, I'm never going to be like a basketball star like fucking LeBron James or whatever. So, like, I could have tried and tried and tried, but it actually is very useful to get the feedback if you're just not going to make it, like, to the degree, like, if I wanted to be professional, that would be a bad idea. If I wanted to play with my brothers or my brother or whatever sometime, that's fine. You should get that feedback so you can spend your time on things that you can achieve, and being overly committed to an impossible dream is in fact a cruel thing to do. And like, the sooner you can help, like, if someone's got a really shitty girlfriend and they've been ruining their life for years, nobody wants to criticize their homie's girlfriend, right? But at a certain point, if she's fucking him up to a certain degree, you gotta say something, or you're letting your homie down. And it's that kind of thing. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Boom. Life lessons. Tell all your homies to break up with their girls.
Yeah.
You heard it from
me.
But
it is definitely a thing where it's like, it's a thing where, it's like, sometimes, I don't think it's necessarily a thing of like just, it just is that way, but it's like, some people really will try for so long to be like amazing at something, but there's a thing where it's like, they don't have the dedication to maybe want to like put the time into the things that are really hard or challenge it. Like, there's a lot of people that I do music and stuff. A lot of people that do music, they're doing like they're like, oh, I practice 6 hours a day, and it's like, well, they're practicing the stuff they're comfortable with 6 hours a day. They don't tackle these things that are really hard, and so they stay stagnant for 10 years, and then they get incredibly angry when they see somebody like a kid or something that's like 18, he's only been playing for 2 years, and he's better than them. He's better than them at these particular things that they wish they were better at. And there's a lot of, so it's something you see in life. So when something can actually articulate something very real that isn't talked about very much, I'm making it seem like this is a downer show. It's not. It's actually very, very optimistic. Like it's super uplifting. But I think the fact that it goes into those kind of harsh truths just makes those like go even higher.
I wouldn't say it's a downer show or an optimistic show. I would say it's just a very, very real show. It doesn't real. Put anything through rose-tinted glasses. It just presents the world as it is, the best sides of the world, and like the worst sides of the world as well. Which, going back to recommendations, the first thing I always ask when recommending people shows or anime or manga, it doesn't matter, is as I've said, everyone has different tastes. So what are some of your favorite manga, or what kind of things do you look for in a story?
Well, you loved Gurren Lagann, so I know you've got good taste. That's right off the bat.
So, well, yeah, I had fun with Gurren Lagann. For me, when it comes to manga, obviously, I Berserk. That's like the one that everybody expects me to say, right? That series, I think to say that I'm financially and emotionally indebted to that series, it would be an understatement, because it's true. I think Oyasumi Punpun's another one. Yeah. Monster. On other specters like Dorohedoro, I'm a ginormous fan of Alice in Borderlands. That's one that I recently covered. And overall, I think when it comes to certain series, I always appreciate, and I think the characters that hit me the most, for example, the Gray Man's another one of my favorites. I really love stories and characters that make me reflect on myself and on everything that it means to live as a person and how we go about living. Lugosi from Beastars is another character that I have a lot of love for in Beastars, as well as a story. Things that make me look at myself, and the things that no human wants to sometimes have to come in contact with, our sins, our evils, and then just kind of being like, that is part of me. Now, how do I deal with that?
I've got the one. I was thinking of this before. I think when it comes to manga, I just had one recommendation. I think that you would certainly enjoy. I bet you've read this one, Garn. It's have you ever heard of Onani Master Kurosawa?
Isn't that the one dude who like masturbates? I've had that one like recommended to me so many times.
He aggressively uses his masturbation as a weapon. Yeah. Okay, but that's absolutely true. It starts off kind of as a comedy. It becomes like one of the most heartfelt tales of redemption for multiple different angles. And it, like, imagine if you actually did that and you were found out, basically. What would that involve for you to handle that situation? It's really funny. It has a lot of great references and stuff, but it is to this day one of the most, one of the most real in the modern era, one of the most like grounded and great manga I've ever read. So Onani Master Kurosawa, to you and anybody else out there who likes that kind of story, I highly recommend. And it's not that long either.
Does he do nofap? Is that how he fixes a problem?
Quite the opposite.
Really? So he doubles down. He's jerking off even more.
He basically uses he'll use his own jizz to like gross out people. He will like put tissues with it in it, like in lock. He is a bioterrorist with his own jizz. I was gonna say that is what he does.
That's a biohazard.
And he does that, and like he gets in. It gets kind of Machiavellian at times with the way he uses it. Like there are certain things you can do with that, and this like seemingly normal guy just starts like harassing his like normal high school classmates in that way, and he has ups and downs like socially, and then it does get found out. Spoilers, it gets found out, and he has to deal with that, and that's when it gets really good, and I think you'd enjoy it. But it's just a funny premise right off the bat, and then it actually gets really, I don't want to use the word deep, but very, very meaningful, if nothing else. So that's a good one.
Okay.
And as a manga guy, like as I was listening to these guys talk, I wanted to see how many episodes Ping Pong was, because it seems to me, maybe I'm projecting, the main issue with anime is the amount of time I have to spend watching it and doing nothing else. It is anime especially in Japanese, it is such a demand on your time and attention, and I've got so many things I need to do. And when I was watching one of your video, one of the Trash Chase things where you Giga, were talking about how you have to watch the episodes at 2x speed, and I was like, thank God I'm not the only one doing that for my like seasonal,
I mean, it's
episode
impossible
reviews.
now because there's just too much shit out
There's
there.
too many. There's far too many shows.
And like with manga, at least you can like speed run it because you can read at your own pace. With anime, you can't do that anymore. So it's just something that I never thought I would have to do with anime, but it's something that now it's like impossible to keep up or consume anime without doing, in my opinion.
And there are shows, I mean, like Mushoku Tensei, I've heard you talk about very favorably.
Yeah.
I would feel incredibly guilty watching that show at anything other than the normal speed, the one-time speed, because they put love into like every frame, every character. Most shows are not like that, and they did not. And it is, in fact, better a lot of the time when you watch it at ×2 speed. Because you're not dwelling on their shitty backgrounds or
honestly,
poses.
it's like you can skip past the boring shit and just get to the parts that you're actually watching the show for.
Yep.
Because the problem with a lot of modern anime is that everything's become very copy paste. Maybe Miyazaki was right all along, and
it was a
like
mistake.
Like all anime is just influenced by each other, and it's just like it's like Ouroboros.
Yeah.
It's just it's incestuous.
That's the one
way to put it.
The Miyazaki thing is interesting. I believe it was him who talked about how like in his generation, like men would go out and like live lives and they would have stories to tell and they would bring that back to animation, and that it was just the human experience being put onto a screen, and it was beautiful, and basically everything Miyazaki has done is pretty great, presumably for that reason. I heard that like Araki, the JoJo guy, believes things similarly, and he has his own approach to things. But then, I always think about, in contrast to that, the generation of Hideyaki Anno. Am I getting the first? Anno, the Eva guy, right?
Yeah.
He is from the generation of the first generation of the otaku creator who came in as a fan who wanted to reference things that, frankly, I think many of us are kind of we do a similar kind of thing. I mean, we're operating in the meta space. We're reviewing, we're talking about things they're creating, so it's a little different. But there's that incestuous loop is happening, and it's not getting as much new lifeblood being fed in. We need like a pause, a severing of the ties, like in Sekiro. You need to stop the resurrection cycle. You need to let things die and be reborn. It's healthy, like the sakura blossoms. It's the ephemerality of life. It's that whole thing. Or else you'll grow centipedes inside you, and nobody likes that. And the anime industry has a couple of centipedes rattling around in there, and it's time to let them out.
Yeah, it's because unfortunately, a lot of these things still make a lot of money, and at the end of the day, there are some amazing stories being told in the anime industry, but a lot of the times, a lot of the greatest stories didn't make the money back, and all the money is being invested into a proven formula that works. I mean, you can argue that's just the entertainment and movie industry in general.
Oh yeah,
and,
that's everywhere.
It kind of is, and and anime, surprise, is no different. But going back to what you said, Masked, about having to like always quantify why you are enjoying something. When was the last time you watched or read something where you just like, it was kind of like turn your brain off, you just enjoyed it, and you didn't really think about why you enjoyed it until maybe after you'd finished it, or you weren't really, you were just in the moment enjoying this piece of media?
Can you tough one to think of on the spot?
Yeah,
I know.
Dog, it has been such a long fucking time. Like when your reputation is like the reviewer guy, kinda. And that's why recently in my videos now, I try to be a little more myself. Because warning, I may sound a little more professional in the way I conduct myself in my videos, but outside I am a chaotic maniac. Like for me, my humor is very aggressive. It's sometimes very loud in your face. Like that's just my sense of humor, and I've been trying to incorporate that with my videos.
Yeah.
And so, but when you kind of have a certain reputation, like a certain standard, and this is a standard that's probably been built up now for over a year. So I honestly, dog, I would have to say at least it's been a year and a half. I think the last series that I read that I enjoyed, and even then I enjoyed it, but I knew why I enjoyed it while I was reading it, was like Kaguya-sama. Kaguya-sama and GTO, Great Teacher Onizuka.
Fucking
like
brilliant.
that. I did a list where Oh yeah, no, GTO, Onizuka's the GOAT. And people have asked me like, what's the difference? I've done a video on like my top 10 manga and then my top 10 favorite, and that might sound really stupid, and it kind of is. But the purpose of it was like, here are the 10 manga that if you put a gun to my head, I would say is the best that I've read, and here are 10 that I just have the most fun with. Because like Pun Pun,
that's
like,
not
as
a fun
story,
manga. That's a suicide.
But
inducer.
it's not a fun manga. Exactly. Like it's not the same type of appreciation like for Kaguya-sama, like for an Onizuka, like where you can laugh and enjoy it. So yeah, I think whenever I read Kaguya-sama, and I haven't read it in a while, I have to catch up. But that was the last time. I was having fun with quintessential quintuplets, and then the ending happened, and then I was also having fun with Rent a Girlfriend, and then I got like 10 chapters in. And I was just like,
that series is depressing.
Nah. I have a homie of mine who loves Chizuru almost just as much
really?
as me. All right, so
yeah, I love her too. But, only $20, and she treats me real good. I love that about her. She's,
Oh yeah, only like 400 chapters in, and it's the same thing. No. It has been a while. It has been a while since I think I've been able to sit down and enjoy something.
All right, I've got a recommendation, Thor. I put together a list of things. I'm just coming at you fast because these are great. All right, the last thing I watched that I just enjoyed, Dragon Maid motherfucking Season 2 is a masterpiece of just watching something and relaxing. Now, the thing is, I don't know if you like slice of life stuff that much. You seem a little too intellectual. You seem a little too smart to lower yourself to my level of enjoying Dragon Maid. But hey, maybe not.
Maybe.
Dragon Maid is one of these shows that it doesn't matter what's happening. KyoAni just makes you feel good, and they validate the existence of the medium of animation that I grow increasingly questionable if it is worth existing. But it is, because they made Dragon Maid Season 2, despite all the horrible things that happened to KyoAni.
Yeah, I was gonna say they bounced back crazy. Like they put out.
Amazingly.
Is the animation in that show like on par with what they were doing before? All that.
Yeah,
better.
It definitely
it's better than Season 1.
That's crazy.
I swear to God, it's unbelievable. They did such honor, such credit to I forget the name of the director. Forgive me, the man who died. Several died, but he was one of them. The director of Season 1, he'd started Season 2, but he got killed in the fire tragically. But Season 2 was such a breath of fresh air. And I loved it so much. I watched Season 1. I'd seen clips. I watched the whole thing like in anticipation of Season 2 coming out. One of the best experiences I've had watching an anime in such a long time. That was a video I made not long ago about it being effortless joy. It just makes you feel good to watch. Highly recommended.
I think one big thing that came to mind was a lot of the shows I would recommend, because it seems like a lot of the shows I recommend have corresponding manga, and because you're a manga guy, I think one of the big problems I came to is that I would find it hard to recommend a show when I know that you would probably just prefer to read the manga anyway. So like looking at anime exclusive stuff, I think with the problem of not having the patience to like sit down and watch an entire show, have you watched many anime movies? Because I feel like maybe anime movies might be the way to go.
Indeed.
Nah, the only anime movie I remember watching was like near 9 years ago, and I'll never forget it. I was on a plane, and I don't remember the name of the movie, so you guys can
Let's see.
remember this movie so I could watch it and do a video on it. Okay, thank you, God, for this opportunity. Okay, so I was on this plane visiting back my family in Puerto Rico, and on the way back here to the U.S., I was sitting on this plane. Next to me was this girl, and she was watching something. And me being like the rude 11-year-old that I was just watching it like if it was. So I was just watching it with her. And I was just reading the subtitles, and it was like this girl, right? And that's a horrible start to describe it. But this girl who I was gonna say this girl in high school, like if that narrowed it down. But okay, no, but the thing is she like had an accident where she fell and then she could like almost kind of kill herself, but then she would jump back into the past.
The girl who left her time.
So
yeah,
in
girl
the
who
end,
left her time. That was it.
Oh my God,
That's
that it?
That's got to be it.
That's
yeah, okay, so yeah, that was the one. I remember literally crying
That's
at like
a great
11-year-old me just sobbing on the plane, and I've wanted to see that movie again ever since, but I couldn't find
that's
it.
a really good movie.
And you should watch the other one by the same director. What's the one that's the Digimon ripoff? Summer Wars. Summer motherfucking Wars.
All of his movies, the ones I recommend for Mamoru Hosoda is The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, and Wolf Children. And all of the good thing about anime movies is that they work best as movies. It's something where you can sit down. It only takes an hour and a half to 2 hours of your time, and you get the complete story and the complete experience. Another thing I would highly recommend is any of Satoshi Kon's works. Perfect Blue, Millennium Actress, those are masterpieces of films.
I just watched Perfect Blue for the first time, on Halloween. I can't believe it took me so long.
Holy shit.
Incredible.
It
was the bomb.
It's absolutely incredible. And these are films that these are films, and the reason I recommend them is that you can't get this kind of experience in manga. They work because it is animation, and it is the medium of anime that they work the best. So I think having films like this and shows that only work because they were in the medium of animation might be able to make you sell you on the idea that some things do deserve to be in anime as opposed to just being in a story told in manga.
All right, let me hit you with a couple more that I don't know if you'd love these. I was really trying to think of things that are short and would be almost movie format or worth your time. Have you seen Fooly Cooly?
No.
You should check out Fooly Cooly. How about, have you seen season 1 of One Punch Man?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, that's good. All right, I'll just list off the other ones. Okay, I love the first 3 episodes of Made in Abyss more than almost anything I've seen in over a decade, and the whole season 1 is incredible. And then there's a movie. Made in Abyss is fantastic. It's not to everybody's taste. I absolutely love it. I think you would too.
Manga. I'm caught up on the manga. On
there is a manga. The anime Elevate. It's
right.
not.
Quick question. Have they gotten to Best Dad Bondrewd in the anime?
There is a whole movie about his arc.
Yes,
that is the best movie ever.
All right. Dead ass. They made a whole movie.
Yeah.
I'm watching that one. That Bondrewd's one of my favorite characters ever.
I was watching season 1. I did a bunch of videos and talked about it years ago when season 1 was coming out. They got right up to the Bondrewd arc, and I thought, they are going to make season 2, and it is going to be dragged down. It is going to be overly elongated pacing. It's going to be terrible. But they gave me the greatest gift they could ever do. They just made it a movie with higher production values, a totally new soundtrack. Kevin Penkin is the best in the business right now. It was so goddamn good and above my expectations of one of my favorite series running right now.
Man.
So good, man.
Oh, I need to see that then, because I always imagine Bondrewd with Samuel Hayden's voice from Doom. Anyone who's played the Doom games is familiar with that voice. But yeah, okay, that's dope. All right, good to know.
The rumble of scientific triumph. God, I love that guy.
I feel bad for you a bit, Mass, because there's a thing where it's you're getting all these recommendations, and I can just imagine you a day or two after this, you're going to try and check in some, and you're going to feel pressured. I've got to
man, you don't got to do that. You don't know less than nothing. I'm trying to help here.
So no, I definitely don't feel pressure here. And there was a time, so the first time I ever felt pressure to like something, and then I kind of just grabbed my balls and I said, screw it, I'm just going to be completely honest, was with Evangelion.
Ooh, yeah.
And that was a series.
I heard you didn't like that one.
Well.
Not so much, as much as, yeah.
I wasn't as harsh as Scam was. To quote my good pal Scamboli Reviews, he says, quote, I don't like Evangelion because my mental health is good.
I mean, it is
I get that.
But
I'll be real.
But Evangelion was one of those things where in my video, and I think I could definitely do that video a lot better now, I had expressed how it's a series that I could definitely appreciate the vision because it definitely gets its message across extremely well. However, it was something, and that's part of what I explained in my recent video, to where I just feel like there was, maybe it was just certain parts of the pacing, or maybe, like I said, maybe it's just the way that I consume anime as a medium. It was just something that when I was done with it, I was just kind of like, well, fuck, okay. And that was it. It wasn't anything
Did you watch the movie? Just to check.
No, I didn't watch any. So I watched, well, hold on, which movie? Because I saw the series and I saw End of Evangelion, but I didn't see anything past that.
Oh, God. We do not talk about the remake series on this channel. We do not acknowledge its existence. We
There's
do
a remake
not.
series?
The
I have-
rebuild.
well,
It's like it's weird.
I'm
It's like
literally
a part. It's like a part remake, but it's also like a part like sequel because it's like it's in a new universe or a new
it's
parallel
weird.
thing. They really went like convoluted with it. That old school Japanese shit. It's always got to get crazy.
Right.
I gave up on them after I tried the second
Right.
one. I was like, this is not what I signed up for, and I failed.
You didn't want to see Shinji get a girlfriend?
It's not what the story's about. I just, I have less tolerance for remakes than almost anyone on the planet. And any attempt to tweak the story, it just comes across to me as cynical cashing in on an IP.
Sure.
I know the guy who was Anno's protege is making them. Oh, great, I get it. He probably had his blessing. I don't give a shit. I think that, the guys who made Final Fantasy VII were largely the same people who made the remake.
Yeah.
That gives them zero credibility because they changed and they betrayed me, and I will never forgive them. They're different men than they were. Same kind of thing here.
So I guess it's just one of those things then where I heard like the recent movies were good, but with Ava it was just one of those things that I expressed like I don't know, because I always make that distinction sometimes where it's like maybe I didn't enjoy this, but I can totally see why someone would see it as a masterpiece, and I think it deserves all its credits. By the way, fun fact, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but I'm horrible with keeping up with anything anime or manga news. I literally know nothing outside of what's recommended to me and what my homies talk about.
Were you saying something, Garnt?
Yeah.
I forgot. We were talking about the Ava movie. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't enjoy the Ava movies, that's completely fine because I feel like they didn't really like it. It wasn't until the last movie, in my opinion, that they really said something new or did something new with the franchise.
Great! Only had to sit through 3 movies.
Yeah,
Great.
only had to sit through 3 movies. I will say that the 4th movie made me feel things that Ava has never made me feel before. So I'm glad. Okay. I'm glad that the rebuild movies exist solely for the 4th movie because it gave me something I didn't know I needed with Ava, which is closure, and I'm happy. And I don't need any more Ava in my life at all, and I'll be completely satisfied now. But I mean, with your experience with Ava Mask, it's kind of just I don't think that Ava is something that you can watch Ava for the first time and not get anything out of it. But for me, like I remember the first time I watched Ava, it was a very similar experience to Scam actually,
right,
where I absolutely fucking hated it. And I absolutely hated Ava the first time I watched it. And it was only as time progressed that Ava was the one series that, kind of stuck with me. And I don't really know why. And even though I didn't give a shit about it when I first watched it, I gave more of a shit about it, and I gained more of an appreciation about it as time went on. And I feel like there are some series like that exist. I'd say another series that I didn't like the first time as well, and I think is another good recommendation, is Psycho Pass. I thought when Psycho Pass first aired, it was a very mid show, and then I remember rewatching it as the years went on, and it was only in my second and third viewing that I appreciated the series more when I watched it, than when I watched it the first time. And then I think a big thing is that I never felt pressured to watch it. I watched it because something about that series stuck with me, and and there's a difference between you watching the show or you watching the series because everyone's like kind of recommending the show for you, and you're just like trying to form an opinion. And then there are some series where maybe you just weren't in the right mood or right mindset to watch it the first time, but you come back to it years later, where there's no pressure, and you kind of form a completely different opinion about it.
Yeah, no, I think a really good analogy for that, and as you were kind of describing it, is when it's like when your parents tell you to clean your room versus when you're in the mood to clean your own room. It's like it's the same thing. You're doing the same thing, but it's just whether or not you're in the mood for it, I guess.
It's the damnedest thing. My dad used to make me mow the lawn when I was a kid, and now I have my own place with a lawn. I fucking love mowing my lawn. It's funny. I hated it when I was a kid because it's my damn lawn.
Yeah.
Now, I get to do it. I get to take care of it. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit how much I love doing it, but having the freedom, making it your own choice, such a big difference. Yeah.
I've got a thing I could actually ask is that do you guys feel like there's a because I'm in a slightly different situation from you guys, because I've never like monetized my videos or tried to make it a career or anything, and I'm wondering if like making it a career kind of forces you down this path where it's like, now I need to consume all this, I need to become like this big professional in this way, and I have to have good taste because otherwise people will hate me or they'll leave me or anything like that. Like,
those pressures are real for sure. They exist.
In a way, those pressures are real, and there's different ways to go. Like for me, at least, right? I know for a fact, and I just kind of trolled on Twitter a little bit. I was like 5,000 likes, and I'll reread One Piece and catch up. I'm not doing that shit. Deleted the tweet, but
hey, it's a good series.
I could milk. It's great. It's a great series. I could milk the life out of so many top-selling shonen manga, and I know how easy it would be for me to do that, but I don't find that as
that's not why I got into it.
I'd much rather genuinely talk about. I'd much rather genuinely talk about something once and then never talk about it again, or repeatedly talk about something that I love. Now, as for the other pressure that you pointed to, is like, I think the pressure comes in like, so say one day I had like this weird switch where I was like, yeah, I don't think Berserk is great anymore. I think then the only pressure I would have or feel is the need to communicate my points well as to why I don't like it, because you can't really monetize a 5-second video. My next video is going to be like this. It's like, yeah, this series, I don't like it, and the video. You can't monetize that. YouTube won't push that as much.
Yeah.
And so, there is that constant pressure where it's like, okay, this is how I genuinely feel about a series, but I'm going to have to kind of change how I word it in the title so I can get, so this video can perform better. Then hopefully people will stick around in the video for me to genuinely explain my actual stance. Now, I'm not going to say I hate a series and then in the video not like say that I love it. But for example, I might say, my Ava video is actually a really good example. I was like, why I hate Evangelion. Do I hate it? Not really. Did I kind of hate it at the moment for certain things? Yeah, but it was a series that I was just kind of more so indifferent towards. However, the title, I'm indifferent towards Evangelion. Actually, now that video might have still done well. I don't know, but it's
a funny idea.
It's just like, but there are certain pressures, but for me, it's like if I genuinely don't. Like, it would be an unpopular opinion to think Bleach is better than One Piece, but I hold to that very firmly and proudly.
Yeah.
Bleach gets dragged
fucking
way
Zoomers,
too much
man.
on the
I got
internet.
no time for these Zoomer-ass opinions about Bleach being good.
But there are those kind of pressures, and it's so weird in the anime and manga community, but I guess it's all about making your point across, because if I were to come on every video talking about how my taste is superior to everyone else and people aren't smart enough to understand, then I would be adding an unneeded pressure on myself. But I always try to make it very clear that at least whenever I recommend series or talk about them is because these are stories that I think have impacted me so deeply and have in a way inspired me to become a better person, just like Zyzz, someone we were talking about earlier. So my desire when sharing these stories is to not only connect with people about something that I love, which is why I think we all talk about the things we enjoy, but it's also to maybe, like, there have been people who've reached out to me and been like, yo, you recommending Pun Pun or Berserk or even just talking about Naruto has saved my life, has made me want, and to think that that kind of effect can be had on people is, so I guess those pressures do exist, but as to the certain extent in which they exist, I think it's all up to the content creator.
Yeah, because I think for me at least, it never came down to like, oh, this is my job. It never came down to like a monetary value of I'm getting paid to like talk about these kinds of shows and kind of anime. Because I've been doing YouTube for like, I think, how long have I been doing? Like 13, 14 years now. So like most of my career has been not getting paid for talking that anime. But I feel like there was a pressure before to present yourself as having like good taste or someone who people can trust when it comes to their opinion. And then I think as time went along, I just stopped giving a shit. Now my like entire online brand is about
your brand is too tainted to worry about those kind of things with. So what's the point?
My entire brand is how bad my taste is, and that's just because,
that's right.
And that's just.
This man defends Ero manga. There's no coming back from that. It's over at that point.
I defend Ero manga in just it is absolute trash. but it's just like it's entertaining because of how fucking bad it is, you know.
Well, that's true. That's
and this is kind of like I think how the community is going towards, because there is so much anime right now and so much media that's coming out that people at this time don't have the energy to try and defend why they like this show. They just kind of like the show because they like the show, and that's why for me, my comfort food or my comfort zone is just kind of like a lot of isekai, a lot of power fantasy. And yes, I know that is trash, and I know a lot of them are very recycled things, but I find comfort in these kinds of shows, and I don't feel the need to like have to defend myself anymore, because this is just my taste.
Right.
And I know that, and once you get to the point where you've watched enough anime, you know, you don't need to say have watched every anime, but you've watched enough anime to know what kind of shows you look out for or what kind of shows make you tick, then that's just like, you don't have to feel the pressure to be like, oh, I have to explain why X show is bad or Y show is bad. I just don't like them, and I know I don't like them.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that everyone doesn't like them. I just know the reason why I don't like them. And I feel like a good reviewer can explain why a show is good, but a great reviewer can explain why that show is
bad.
good. Yeah, why that show. A great reviewer can explain why that thing is good for them and them specifically, and if other people would like it if they have the same experience that they do. If that makes any sense.
I feel you. I always think sometimes when it comes to like game reviews on that field, that's a more specific kind of thing than the medium of animation. There are different types of games. I mean, with very different like intended audiences. Like the audience for Last of Us 2, different from the audience for Factorio. Those are like totally incompatible experiences. Very different products they're selling, and you kind of need a different reviewer. Not even like a guy making a video about it. Not even just for like the different genres, but the level of commitment you go to within that game. Like, is this like the completionist, right? He's the guy who completes every aspect of a game. That is a very important thing for the kind of people who care about, is this worth devoting 1,000 hours of my time to do, as you can with some games, versus, you know, whatever else. And this logic just applies exactly the same way to different types of anime, different types of games, or any media you want, video games or movies. You know, the Red Letter Media guys have their own taste. That's going to be different from, I can't think of any other movie reviewers on YouTube, but James Rolfe, like the video game guy or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all about finding the things that work for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
I love the
angry video
guy.
game
James,
dude.
Like, he used to be
he earned that position.
He used to be such a pinnacle.
He wanted to be.
But I get exactly what you mean, because, like, say I watch a video from Donkey, you know, and he reviews a JRPG. So
you know, I don't give a shit about his opinion about any JRPG.
Exactly.
Fuck you, Donkey. They're a good genre. You're trash.
Exactly. I take it with a grain of salt because I know what his tastes are, and he knows what his tastes are, and his audience knows what his tastes are. So if he complains about a JRPG, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt because I know what kind of games he likes, you know?
Right,
and
right.
I
Scrimblow, Bimblow platformers. That's the ones for him.
Exactly. And I feel like putting your taste into your content and into your reviews is kind of an important part of the process, because no one has immaculate taste. No one has the perfect taste in anime, because that doesn't fucking exist. It's like being able to find out how to convey your tastes to the audience, so that they understand you as a person, which is a really important skill that people learn as they make these kinds of content on YouTube.
Otherwise, why would they come to your channel? Why not just go to Metacritic and find out the user score versus whatever?
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly, right?
Plus the entertainment value, but still. Okay, hey, I just want to speed run my last couple of recommendations, and then I'll be done. I swear. Maybe nobody even cares about this, but I've been looking at them, and I want to say them. All right,
okay.
Mob Psycho 100. I think it's worth your time. Check that shit out. The manga's good too. Okay. I mean, it justifies the medium of animation. All these recommendations do.
I've seen a good bit of it. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Even that one is a little bit like, I don't know. That's on like the maybe pile because some of the episodes aren't as snappy and maybe not the best use of your time.
I'd say Mob Psycho doesn't really start hitting until season 2. Season 1 I was very okay about, but it's season 2 where the real life lessons and the real character writing really shines through.
Okay, I remember liking Seth throughout, but fair enough. I think most people agreed it did improve as it went along.
Yeah.
Okay, Cowboy motherfucking Bebop. Of which there was only one show.
Live action,
I acknowledge
right?
no other. There's a movie.
Spike, yeah, that's my boy.
There's nothing else exists. It's just a great anime with an.
I heard the
anime movie
Netflix series was pretty good. Now let me stop.
Don't say that shit to me on this pod. How dare you sully my discussion?
All right, I'm sorry.
You see what they've done to us? Now when you say the name, they think of something that's... I'm getting too mad even thinking about it. Okay, moving on. You know a great movie you should watch? I assumed you had because it was in your video. Redline. Redline is a good movie worth watching.
That one's fun.
Mostly for just the animation chops, and I mean, I just love JP and the simple story with it, even though it's a little bit nonsensical. Okay, and my final ones, I can stop after this. Gunbuster and Diebuster.
They're short too.
I'm a big fan of those two properties. And these are 6-episode OVAs each that tie in beautifully. Gunbuster's from the 80s and Diebuster's from like the early 2000s. I think you would love them, and they are definitely worth your time. So I think those might even be my favorite recommendations of the whole thing. So there you go.
Gunbuster and Diebuster.
Gunbuster and Diebuster.
All right, appreciate it, Bet.
People, go. Someone in the comments condense all of these recommendations so they can be easily looked over quickly. Would appreciate it very much because we went some tangents in between those.
Yeah, I stand by all those recommendations. Those are all very good recommendations.
I could give one too. I mean, like you brought up Cowboy Bebop. I would say like Space Dandy is really good too. That one's more of a comedy.
And Shampoo, Samurai Champloo, of course, as well.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Basically, a lot of these are just anime only stuff. To avoid.
Isn't it interesting that the anime only? There seems to be like a pattern that they're like better, most weird. But let's not do that. Light novel adaptations. That's the way to go. Forget this original. So we don't need any of that. That's a waste of time.
Yeah,
I'm being too snarky.
No. I going on that topic, I completely fucking agree with you. When nothing gets me harder faster than seeing like a new season of anime airing, and I see anime only, and I'm just like, hell yeah, I'm watching this to the end, man.
You know what I saw when I saw that Back Arrow was an original anime written by Nakashima, the same guy who wrote Gurren Lagann, and I forget who the director was. It was like the guy who directed like Code Geass or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I still feel bad that I haven't finished it because I liked everything I saw of it. I got to go back and do that. But that was exactly the feeling. It's an original. It seemed funny. A lot of good jokes going through.
Yeah.
I got to finish Back Arrow. Anyone in the comments, let me know if Back Arrow stayed good because that's what I've heard.
When I look at the seasonal chart and I look at source material, no existing source material, I'm just like, all right, I'm already hard. I'm watching this right now.
Yeah, indeed. I was trying to think of a joke of that, but then I find it was written by... But then I realized I know no writers, so I can't finish that joke. Please fill in the blank here, someone who knows more than I do.
Gabe, you had topics for me and Mess. Do you have anything for GYIIK?
Oh, well, with GYIIK, I figured there'd be some some overlap. I mean, large degree of overlap of this just idea of like what anime is worth watching and what is worth getting into. Frankly, I drew from like a lot of the notes that I made about stuff I wanted to get into.
Well, I've actually got a question for you because because you've been doing you were doing AniTube for a while before. I've found that a lot of people who started doing anime content back then and even now have just started watching way less anime and don't even a lot of them don't even keep up with the current anime climate anymore. Do you still watch anime? And do you keep up with current anime?
You know what's weird? I actually watch more anime now than ever before.
Really?
But it's for business purposes specifically,
right.
And it's because I make this decision. Actually, it's kind of sporadic. It's that on and off between seasons, I will decide this season I'm committing to doing like the season of. I actually really enjoy watching episode 1 of like every episode that comes out and doing like those podcasts I sometimes do, reviewing them all and talking about them all and stuff. When I do that, I feel like I'm getting a real good sense of the industry. It's not looking good, boys. Okay, but that aside, I do feel like I've got a pretty decent pulse as of at least like a season or two ago.
Yeah.
In terms of how many like shows I watch, when I was young, like, I watched on Toonami and I watched on Adult Swim the stuff that was just coming on passively. It's different now because I have to go and like seek it out. So, I'm not exactly sure, like quantity wise, consistently how much I watch. Now it's like I watch the beginning of a season, and when I hear there's a show or I notice a show that really stands out, I will commit and like watch it.
Yeah.
But frankly, a lot of them, most of them that even get through that filter still do not impress. And I feel like, well, this had like a kernel of an idea, but didn't develop in the way that I wanted it to. But there's been a few that have managed to get past that. Like the one I go to every time, it just makes me so glad that I did that I wouldn't have seen otherwise, is Made in Abyss.
Yeah.
Made in Abyss completely blew me away. Had like Ghibli level animation, episode 1. The first 3 episodes are like my favorite arc of like any anime I've seen in the last long amount of time. Anyway, I'm meandering from the point a little bit. But the point is I watch a good amount, if not more than I did before. And that might be because I really didn't watch that many shows. I was never like a seasonal guy. I was in my anime club in college, and those guys I hung out with were the watch seasonal, anime, and they told me about like Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
They told me about Code Geass and that kind of stuff. So I learned from my and they. I'm just gonna kill myself right now. I'm sorry I said that word. I'm literally gonna censor that. That's too embarrassing. Why did I say that? Why did I say that? I know it literally applies.
You better keep that in.
I can't. Oh my god!
I didn't know I was
blushing red as shit.
I didn't know I was in a mid 2000s anime convention. I thought we were in 2021, man.
It was a better time. Have I mentioned I've been playing a lot of DDR lately? I'm trying to go back.
Quick question. So it's not all the spotlight's not all on my boy, but I need to know this. Because I've never been able to really ask this question without any of my homies looking at me like, yo, what the fuck? Like, okay, we're all anime dudes here. So previously, I've been with people who were also really into anime, ironically at the time more than I was. Now, maybe this is just because I'm mean and I'm not romantic in this way. But I swear to Christ, whenever a girl called me senpai, I had the nasty urge to just punch her in the throat. Like, am I the only one who's like, that is, like, you were talking about how this gets you hard and what doesn't get you hard gigging. My penis will fall off if like I
can't be the only man who got a good glomping at anime conventions back in the day. And man, that was the shit.
Fucking glomp, man. Okay.
I've never been to one yet. I actually wanted to go to Anime New York this year, but because of like COVID stuff, it wasn't really possible. But I'm really nervous.
I think I went there one year actually.
I'm really nervous to go to like my first anime convention because I want to go with like the full Akumetsu mask and all that.
Oh, so, yeah, man.
I just don't know how that's gonna be. I just don't know how if anyone will recognize me, and if they do, like, I just don't know because I'm.
Well, is your face out there in general? Do you put it out there?
I've done one face reveal, and I got so many comparisons to James Charles, I refused to do my face in a video again. It was literally
just
everywhere.
like in Akumetsu. Man, I love that whole reveal at the end of Akumetsu when they're like, yeah, this mask doesn't really cover my face very well. I think people might have known who I am, like, all along. By the way, one of my favorite series, Akumetsu, is goated, to put it lightly. So I'm delighted to see you embracing
Mask,
that.
If you ever come to Japan, I'll take you to a maid cafe, and I swear to God, your dick will shrivel up so hard that it will invert. It'll invert back into its body, man. That's how hard it will go back, man. Like there's just something about seeing girls like anime characters that is just awful. Like
it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No.
You know,
it doesn't work. It doesn't. It just doesn't work.
I've spent my time in Japan. I remember walking in Akiba and the maid girls, it might just be a normal amount of that little bit of social anxiety of like, oh, if a girl talks to me, what if I fuck it up? I don't want to do it. Plus, she's dressed like a maid. That means she's like a real anime girl. I'll never become 2D myself if I embarrass myself in front of her. But I kept my distance, to say the least.
I actually found a really easy solution. I just became interested in men only, and I've never had that problem since.
A wise solution, a bold plan. Yes. I'll give it a try one of these days.
If
because
anyone ever goes to Japan, you got to go to like Osaka because that's like they're fun over there. They'll like buy you drinks. They're like, "Oh, you like Nihon?" They get all excited and shit. They think you're
Do they
cool.
really?
Yeah.
You
if you go to Tokyo, because there's a bunch of foreigners in Tokyo and shit, so like you're whatever, you're invisible to them. But if you go to like one of the little out places and it's obvious that you're just visiting and you're cool, they're all into you. My friend Coast went to Japan. He had this experience where it's like you go to Osaka, it's like drunk guys dressed as Santa getting drunk on the street. And, it's a huge blast to go to that part.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely like a different from like going to like a capital city to like a more local place.
Yeah.
Because here in Tokyo, especially when the country was open, they definitely treated tourists different. Because it's kind of a different vibe, but you definitely get more like of the fun and more open people in places like Osaka and places outside of Tokyo and the capital, and especially the tourist spots as well.
So Garnt, I heard on one of the episodes you're doing. There's a million episodes. I'm not sure which one it was, but by the way, congrats on the success. That show is great, really fun to watch. And
thank you very much.
I enjoyed checking it out. Yeah,
thank you very much.
I was just gonna say, I remember I heard you talking about how like you haven't committed the time you wanted to like mastering Japanese. So I was just gonna ask, like, what have you feel like you've improved? I don't know how many years you've been there or not, but I was just curious from like a language learning.
So from a language learning thing, you go through different stages of language learning, right? So when you start learning a language, you start looking up courses, you start looking up YouTube videos about how you can like fucking optimize this, how you can fucking min-max this, right? And I've talked to so many people, and we've gone through the same thing where we've tried to like min-max language learning, which I'm sure you can min-max language learning. But then what you realize is that it's just not fun. There is a way, there is
it's not fun.
There is an optimal way to learn a language. But like with any other skill, you're not going to learn it if you're not enjoying it, because it's not going to stick. So even if you commit to this, I know some people who've really committed to learning Japanese, and by the like the year or two where like they're completely fluent in Japanese, they hate Japanese because it like sucked the fun out of it, right?
It's no longer novel at the very least. It's a commitment they've made. It might be like part of them, but I mean the initial charm will have worn off.
Yeah, exactly. So they have this skill, but they don't enjoy it anymore, right? So my language learning process right now has been a lot slower because I haven't had the time to commit to it. But a lot of my language learning has actually come down to what I've mocked weebs for the longest time, which is watching a lot of fucking anime. But it actually like
go outside, Garnt. It's all around you.
Unironically, learning Japanese through watching anime is really fucking useful.
It is. Yeah. It is. They keep it simple. You can hear a lot of common phrases and stuff.
Yeah. Because I feel like what the real big changer is not just watching anime, but watching anime with subtitles off.
Right. That's the one.
The subtitles are on. It's useless. But if you have them off,
you're learning absolutely nothing
listening.
That way.
You're listening to what's being said.
Y'all are over there watching anime on hard mode. Like, geez. That's impressive though.
It's if you want it. I mean, I can't do that. Don't get me wrong. In college I studied Japanese. I've been doing like wanikani to learn kanji and stuff. Just trying to keep it in my brain. Haven't really committed, but one of these days. And shout out to Matt versus Japan, and there's a bunch of guys like him who do these. It seems like they've got it figured out. It's the full commitment of surrounding yourself. You don't even have to be in Japan, but you set everything on your phone to the language. You just make it so all the text you're exposed to is in the language, and you listen to like Japanese TV or whatever language it is you want to do.
Yeah.
There's a term for it, like
immersion.
I wish I could.
Exposure.
Immersion
and exposure. You need to be around it all the time so that you can integrate into your brain. Because you don't learn. People think learning.
Well, that's how a child learns. A child learns a language by just hearing it all the time. Context clues are super important to make associations. And
so that's why, like, if I'm not watching anime for like a job where I have to talk about it, then I'm always watching it raw, like without subtitles now.
Oh, good. Because you made that hurdle.
Yeah, because you do actually pick up so much. Because I didn't realize how much I ignored what was being said until I turned off the subtitles. Because like it was so weird for me actually having the subtitles on, I didn't notice how much you just blank out the noise, and it's kind of almost like hypnotic, where you hear the noise but none of it actually goes in, and then you turn the subtitles off and it like turns on a different side of your brain to actually like pick up individual words and noises. So like the only times you actually pick up a word with subtitles on is when they are saying just one word, like for example, senpai, or like that like baka, because you hear it just one word in context without any other word being said in the sentence. But with other words, you don't you're not gonna be able to pick out the singular words because they're being used in a sentence, and you're not going to be able to do that with subtitles on. And that's the biggest thing I've learned.
Yeah.
A big reason for that also is because like Japan's sentence structures are totally different than the US. So it's not even like you can go through and map the words to where they are. Like you have to really understand the grammar, and it's like it's better to just turn it off and let it get in your head. I mean, it's like you're like, I don't even think that's something people should make fun, because like that's how a lot of people that are like a lot of people in Mexico that want to learn English, they watch English TV, and that's how they learn English. And
I have a friend from Lithuania, learned English by watching Seinfeld.
Yeah.
You know, and speaks fluent English right now all the time. It's great. Yeah, so it definitely works if you commit.
For me, I kind of suffered it from a double whammy, because like being born like native Puerto Rican and being Hispanic, and then going to the U.S. as a kid, I learned like Spanish and English at the same fucking time.
It's gonna
so
be
I was, it was like that immersion thing y'all talked about, where it was like, okay, watching and constantly surrounding myself with this culture, with this language, and then the difficulty of, for some people, pronouncing certain things, like for example, Filthy Frank always had this, was ore wa chin chin ka desu ke nandayo. It took me a month to learn how to say that, and so and that's the only thing in Japanese that I know how to say. So if I ever go there, it's not going to be a good time for me, because I think the people who are well familiar with Filthy Frank know what that sentence means. But no, it's just that idea of like immersing yourself, and nah, man, that's actually really dope, Garn, that you're like going about that process. And I can imagine it's like with everything that you do, it's just like, what percentage would you say you're at actually with that? Are you like, can you understand it perfectly well, or are you like still
okay? So I'll put this into perspective from an anime point of view. Okay.
Thank God.
No, because here's the thing. Because what I've realized is that if you want to learn Japanese, you can watch different anime have different like speaking levels, right? So one of like the hardest things to keep up with is basically any fucking light novel adaptation, because the language used in light novel adaptations, because it started off as a light novel, is a lot more complex than, say, manga adaptations. Manga adaptations are a lot easier to follow, because the dialogue is going to be a lot simpler. And going from manga adaptations, if you have stories that are set in high school, that is also like another level that is easier to follow, because the dialogue used in, say, Kaguya-sama is going to be different than the vocabulary used in like an isekai anime, right? Because that's more focused around fantasy vocabulary, whereas in high school, a lot of the dialogue is what high schoolers in Japan would say. Not exactly, but it more pertains to that kind of environment. And
gotcha.
To go a level below, okay, you guys are going to fucking laugh now. To go a level below, the easiest type of anime that you can understand and follow along with, I shit you not, hentai.
He called it.
You want to practice your Japanese learning level at the lowest level.
Kimochi. I know what that means. Yeah. Okay.
So the level I'm at right now is what was I watching recently? I was watching Komi-san, right? Komi-san is a high school manga adaptation, and I can understand about 65% of what is being said in the show.
Oh wait, Komi-san can't communicate?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
So that is to me like around N4 and 3 level, if we're doing like actual professional standards.
That sounds about right.
With hentai, I can like, if I watch hentai, I understand 90% of what's going on in the hentai. and so that is the level that I'm at.
Just that like visual of now just Garnt walking around his house practicing for he's just like moto moto yamete, like just repeating that shit to himself.
He's got his professor's hat on, got the monocle on, studying the text. Yeah.
That is
brain expanding.
That
Yo.
Well, I shit you not. Hentai is the easiest form of anime to understand, and if you want to test, test your language level, watch some hentai. If you perfectly understand what's going on, then you can move up to actually watching anime.
I'm sick, man. You can now actually say you watch hentai for educational purposes.
Finally, the excuse I've been looking for. No longer will my father look at me with disappointment, but with pride.
So do you like do the I know some people that are really into learning Japanese. There's like those levels of tests you can do where like they show that you're like proficient.
Yeah, the N1 through 5 stuff.
Yeah. Like, they get harder and harder. Yeah.
So I haven't done those tests officially, but I recently just did it for fun, actually, just to test myself. And so how the level works is it goes from N1 to N5, which N1 is like the highest level. That's like fluency, more fluent than even some Japanese speaking people, because the amount of kanji you need to know is more than maybe some of the average person in Japan. And then the lowest is N5, which is you speak to a lot of Japanese learning people, and they say N5 is just it's kind of useless. You can't really do anything with N5.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of agree with that, because I did the test recently, and my language level is definitely N5. So like they say that you can't do anything useful with N5. I'd say the only thing you could do useful with N5 is understand hentai.
Yeah,
that is N5. That is N5 level.
You've debunked it.
Yeah. And so I am between N5 and N4. So that is about the level I'm at.
And being in Tokyo when I was there, it was they make it so easy for expats and for visitors to get around that you don't learn a damn thing from being in Tokyo. You got to go to Osaka or I don't know, someplace with a little more challenging to get by without like everything was in English the whole time.
A little remote place is a really nice place to be, because it's a thing where it's like all the signs are because that is a problem if you're going to Tokyo. Every sign is in English, everything is in English,
Garn, who's the guy you had on your show who was in Hokkaido for a while? What's his name?
Was
not Abroad in Japan.
Abroad in Japan.
Abroad in Japan. Yeah, who I really like. That guy who I was fascinated to hear his backstory of learning from being in a small town in Hokkaido. I just thought that was the neatest thing. But that's the kind of way. He had no choice. He had to learn quickly because he was just out in the middle of nowhere, and that just seems like the best way to do it.
Yeah, because like the problem I have right now is that everyone I'm surrounded with in my job speaks English, and I mean, part of my job is speaking English and being on a talk show like Trash Taste or writing about anime. So I actually rarely get a chance to use the Japanese that I learned. Funnily enough, right? Because we're being a YouTuber, a lot of my job is inside. It's sat in front of a desk where you don't really have to talk to someone. So. It's actually been difficult to find a place to use my Japanese, even though I'm living in Japan. So you actually it's funny because I actually have to actively go out to places to actually practice and use everything I've learned, which is not something I thought would happen.
It's interesting. It's interesting, but watch out. I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna lap you. You'll see. You'll see. I'm gonna be N1. It's gonna be done.
Dude,
You'll
go
see.
for it. I actually find language learning really, really fun, which is why I might not be progressing at the fastest pace, but I'm really having fun doing what I'm doing. And I found a new passion in learning languages, trying to learn Japanese because I already speak multiple languages, but this is the first time I've actually gone out and tried to learn a language in my adult life.
Oh, right, sure.
I think one of the biggest problems people have with learning a language or learning anything is that people treat learning something like it's like an RPG where you just grind it out until you get there. People forget that it's you can only process so much stuff in one day. You've got to rest a lot. People I think have a big problem with I want to get proficient in Japanese in 1 year, and it's well, it's not going to take 1 year. I know there's an FBI or CIA.
I mean, you could do that with the right lifestyle, but are you willing to commit
Yeah.
to the lifestyle necessary? Which they're not.
They're
know,
not.
I mean, most
Yeah,
people
they
aren't.
just it's a passing, fleeting kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
And
like
that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you can learn Japanese in 1 year, but are you prepared to like give up everything in your life just to learn Japanese? Because that's what you have to do to learn Japanese in 1 year.
And not have fun. Exactly. Like you were saying earlier. Yeah. It's not an enjoyable experience. It's like, again, that's what people like in the CIA have to do. All of a sudden, no, you have to go to this country. You have to learn the language really fast. Like that's what they have. You shouldn't have to put as much stress on yourself as like a U.S. 3-letter employee, you know?
I'd say like learning language is, I think, similar to going to the gym where you got your gains, but like if you're not enjoying the experience, then you're just not going to be motivated to go, right? And the most important thing isn't cramming as much learning as you can into a short period of time. It's the consistency. It's doing it consistently over a long period of time.
Unironically, that's why I've been loving. I wasn't joking. I've been doing DDR. I've been kicking ass at DDR lately. And it's like way more fun than the cardio I was doing up to now. And I've actually been consistent with it, like on and off again, lifting and then doing it for like an hour a day. I mean, it was like I talked about it in another little podcast thing I did, but it was a really good positive change in like the fitness thing that I've been working on lately. And from that, it was really easy to slip into like my other old habits because I used to be very diligent about counting my calories and going religiously to the gym and whatnot. So and it was that one step of finding something that was fun and consistent, hasn't solved all my problems, but it was a big noticeable change and an upgrade when I found something I enjoyed doing and could, consistently come back to.
I think everybody's like on a journey to try and find some way to make cardio like more interesting instead of just like
we're all working
jogging on a fucking treadmill and being like, I just wish I was lifting right now. I hate this.
Cardio and leg day. We all hate it, but we just got to do it. We got to find ways.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, the thing I kind of wanted to just bring up real quick as a discussion is like that whole idea of like being in Japan. Because for me, it's like at least where I grew up, like I grew up around like in the area where I live, the majority of Puerto Ricans are New York. I think there's actually more Puerto Ricans in New York than in Puerto Rico. That's hilarious.
No, that's I know all about this.
But like I grew up around Haitians and then Hispanics, like Caribbean, South American, Central America.
Right.
So there's like a culture that I'm used to. There's an environment. I'm used to walking outside and just being able to, say something, and then when I go back home and visit Puerto Rico, whether it's the rich places or like what would be the barrios or caserillos, which is basically like the hood areas of Puerto Rico, like I feel like at home, friendly, like I don't. But my nature as a person is I'm probably the most extroverted introvert that I know, and my social battery is extremely limited. So just the idea of going to a completely new country with a completely different culture, like, terrifies me. And it's nothing against Japanese people whatsoever. I don't even want to give people the room to think that. It's just, like, was that an intimidating thing? Like, going to Japan and then, I don't know. That's just so mind-boggling. Like, I don't know what I would do if I was just dropped in, I don't know, Belgium. Like, I just wouldn't know what to do, unless so
how's that been on a personal level for you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not been so bad because I've lived in a lot of different places in my life, actually. So, I've lived in the UK. Before moving to Japan, I was living in Thailand as well. Obviously now I live in Japan, and I've had like a short stint in China as well. And also my fiance is from America, so I've spent a lot of time in America. So I guess it's like it's never been too hard for me to like.
Hey, wait! I just picked up that word fiance. I didn't know. Congratulations, man! Was that a recent engagement?
Actually, we should have been married by now if it wasn't for COVID. Yeah. So
well, congrats anyway.
Yeah, our original marriage was meant to be like I think like a year and a half ago. But it's just been rescheduled because finally the world looks like it's getting itself back in order.
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
But yeah, I mean, for me, like, I love traveling. I love going to see different new cultures and just meeting new people. So I didn't find it so hard. And one thing I've learned is that living in so many places is that the one part of the reason I traveled so much was because Originally, I knew that I didn't want to settle down in England, and I thought there was going to be this like perfect place, perfect country out there that would completely suit myself and my living style. And like the more places I've been to, the more I've realized there really isn't like a perfect place. Like I remember when weebs saw Japan as like the Mecca, like the perfect country.
Paradise.
Land of the rising sun. I'm gonna get there.
Right.
My pilgrimage
the
continues.
The streets are paved with manga. Everyone watches anime, and like
Everyone's 2D and
the sake flows in the rivers.
by far, like for one, Japan is a great place, but it is far from the perfect place. And the second thing I've noticed about people who've moved to Japan is that about 90% of people who've moved to Japan now have like just stopped watching anime or reading manga. It's actually like so ironic that so many of the gaijins here who moved to Japan because of anime and manga find out that they're really passionate about other things about Japanese culture that they just never knew about before. Like for me, obviously I still watch anime and read manga, but I fucking love Japanese food and Japanese food culture. It's like fucking incredible. And they just get into different parts of Japanese culture that they never really expected when they move to the country and they see what the country is actually like. So yeah, I'm not actually sure what the point I was trying to make here. I'm just...
Well, I was just going to say, like, on that subject, when I spent 2 months there for for a learning thing in college. And you know what? I really did feel while I was there, I felt it was a little scary because I've actually, for the first time in my life, did you guys know Japan shakes the entire country regularly because there are fucking earthquakes happening all the time because you're on an active goddamn volcano island? I did not know that until I got there. And my bed shook at night. And I was like, what is happening? Where is this land? So that was, okay. So far, so good. Mount Fuji has not yet blown its top. Feeling good about that.
I mean, it's weird. You just kind of just get used to it. Like sometimes now, like you get an alert on your phone, and it's a really scary sound, and it sounds like, and you think the first time I heard it, I thought like the world was ending. I thought like, holy shit, it's like North Korea finally started launching their nukes. What the fuck is going on? And then you live through like your 15th earthquake or something. And the ground starts shaking, your entire building starts shaking, and you're like, okay, it's gone on for like a minute. Should I start worrying? And then it stops, and you're like, all right, you just go on with your day again. And that's pretty much the Japan earthquake experience.
It was interesting, but I mean, I was beyond that. It was just like I would walk out of my little apartment and go onto the street and go up to the store, and I was like, man, this place is so like alien. This is not the things I know. The languages are different. Like these people speak a different language than me. Obviously, I don't hold it against them. It was just that it was so different to be in that place so far. I was just very cognizant of how different the culture was here than I was used to. And it was very, it made me miss home. And I was like, I really look forward to being back home and, just the familiar sights and sounds and just knowing where things are geographically. Honestly, that earthquake thing really did a lot to kind of make me feel like detached from the earth beneath my feet in an existential way, in addition to the kind of the alienation. But, obviously a lot of positives. Had a great time. The city is very kind to gaijins and whatnot. But it was very interesting. And, one of these days I'm going to go back again and we'll see if I still feel that way.
Oh, definitely, man. Hit me up if you ever do.
I will, for sure. We've been looking at the it's closed for now, but we've been looking at those Sakura Blossom Bloom festivals, and one of these springs we'll be there.
Like I'll stand by. I think Japan is like one of the best countries to come visit as a tourist. You'll have like an amazing fucking experience.
I always hear great to visit, a little bit taxing to live in. That's the thing.
I was just going to say that, like, because, again, my friend, he's known a guy, he's, like, lived there his whole life. He's, like, 40.
Yeah.
And it's a thing where it's, like, they're not antagonistic. Japan isn't, like, super aggressive, right? They're not going to, like, oh, with you. But they're going to be, like...
I've got some stories of them doing to friends of mine while I was there, but...
there's always this little thing of, like, okay, but, like, when are you going home? It's like, I know you've been here for like 20 years, but like, when you're leaving soon, right? Like, we don't want, like, it's cool. I'm tired of it now. Can you get out of here?
Jeez. I feel like you could say that about any nation, though. It's like, it's amazing. And I even say that about my homeland. Like, I love I'd give up so much for my home island, but it is not a great place to live with the prices. And so,
Sure.
But that is it's kind of interesting though, seeing how we're just like bursting the bubble of so many people who might have like these misconceptions of Japan, and it's just like,
that's just growing up, man. They can hear it from me. They can hear it from you. That's, there is no promised land out there.
I wonder how many people like that are really still around, because I think back in the day there was a lot of, Weeaboo was started because of this weird, a lot of these Japanophiles, these guys that were super obsessed with it because they didn't understand it. But I feel like now it's a lot harder to not know about the way Japan actually is and the way it actually functions. It's very hard-nosed. They're kind of like stuck up even a little bit, you could even say. They're not super like it's nowadays I think people understand that it's like, no, the anime and manga stuff comes from the nerdy guys there. It's not the
That's definitely true.
It reminds me of the one meme. It's like a place in Japan. I love that meme so much whenever I see it. It's like it's an S tier meme.
Yeah, because I think it's been so weird for me, because I remember getting into anime originally, 15 or so years ago or something. I can't even remember it right now. And Japan just really did seem like this mystical place, right? That nobody, I knew about Japan, but I never knew anyone who went to actually visit Japan and actually experience it. And there was so little documentation about what was actually going in the country and what the anime industry was actually like. And it's been so surreal for me, because a lot of the foreigners who I see now who are working directly in the anime industry were just people who just took that extra step and weren't just being a lot of them were did go through the weeaboo phase, but they went through that extra step of actually going to Japan. And it's funny, because those few people who actually took that extra step to go to Japan and actually go to the actual place and see what the place was like are now really prominent figures. A lot of them are prominent figures in the industry itself. And apparently it wasn't that hard to get your foot in the door. All you really needed to do was go to the place and speak even just a little bit of the language.
It's amazing how much you can do if you just put yourself out there and talk to some people and see what opportunities are there. Because people, I think there's a real hunger. I don't know, millennials in general are very reticent. They don't seize a lot of opportunities I think they could. And I just want to encourage everybody to go out and seize whatever opportunities they want to, because you will be surprised at the stuff that you get back and the yeses you get when you would expect a wall of no's all the time. That's what Zyzz would want, man. And we're all going to make it.
There's a great thing, I don't mean to say talk about TED Talks, but there's this great one Nardwar did. He's this guy that does a lot of music interviews.
Oh,
I love Nardwar.
Nardwar is one of my favorite people ever. And he would he has this great speech he's given where he's like, how did I get an interview with this person? I just went and I asked him. That was all. How did I get an interview with the Prime Minister of Canada? Well, I asked. How did I get it with Kurt Cobain? Well, I found where Courtney Love was, and I asked her if I could talk to Kurt, and she was like, okay. That's as simple as it is. And it's and I can't imagine I don't know, maybe I'm very ignorant about the anime industry, but it's it can't be that much more competitive than the regular US animation industry.
No. I mean, just the biggest barrier is literally just the language barrier. Because you said, a lot of people have gotten jobs in the industry just by asking or just by applying for jobs. It sounds funny, but you want to get a job in the industry, there are job applications.
That being said, can anyone give me a job? I could really use one. How about it, guys? Anybody got a position open for me? What's the starting salary? 100,000, 200?
I actually was going to say that I think that is such an important thing, though, when it comes to anything, and especially success in life, is just having that incentive and that initiative to take action. And sometimes it can be intimidating, but I think, for example, when for me, it's kind of weird because I forget. I always think I'm still the channel with less than 1,000 subs, and so I kind of forget when people hit me up and ask for collabs. I'm just like, yeah, sure, and then they're surprised, and I'm like, why are you surprised? So it's just one of those things though, where it's when another individual I think sees that you're putting in work and you're being genuine about the product that you're trying to put out, whether it be through entertainment or not. I think it's something that can be respectable, but I think, it's that fear and that lack of incentive to do something. But also there's the flip side where it's people want, all of these benefits and all of these connections without ever putting in any work in the first place. So I always find it really interesting, for example, like when Anime Man or Joey, right? I got his name right?
Yeah, Joey.
Okay. when he did like an interview with Asano, and I was just like, yo, that's super dope, to have that kind of experience. Yeah. And it was always a dream of mine to hopefully one day to be able to actually interview Miura himself. But rest in peace, of course.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
But I'd still love to be able to interview someone like Urasawa and other people, maybe even people that I like absolutely love their stories and would love to get more of their insight on. But like you said, I definitely think
Oda.
language.
Come on, Oda. Give me the interview,
okay,
Oda. I'm the one. I'm your man.
I do agree though that I definitely think it would be like a whole language barrier thing, and like how you even get in contact, especially in my case where it's like you're completely overseas. But no, I think it's just important, for people to just have that initiative, that incentive to be like, I want to make something happen, and I'm willing to put in the work to make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, the premise of this very show that we're on right now is so that I can connect and talk to some of you fine fellows that are willing to stoop down to my lowly level on my channel. So, hey, case in point right here. Get to talk with a bunch of cool guys on YouTube who are doing stuff I like. And not to cut things off, but I mean, we've been going for a while, guys. I'm happy to wrap things up here. Unless anybody wants, of course, to talk about anything else.
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
I thought we'd go for an hour, and here we are at 2.5.
Yeah, see, we've been doing this for 2.5 hours, so I think you've got a lot. I mean, I'm not sure if you want to do your whole, your copy pasta.
Oh my God, I prepared a copy pasta. I was thinking I will spare everyone the experience of this. You know what? You mentioned I have to do it now.
You gotta
Somebody
do
brought
it.
it up. I
have
to read
you
it.
Have to hide,
All right, you gotta laugh as I do it, okay? Because this is good. This is good stuff. Now, see, guys, you can't blame me because someone literally asked on the show to hear it, and I did prepare it. So, all right, guys. Okay, setting the scene. Guys, hey, quick change to the conversation. I have this problem, and I'm hoping you guys can give me some help with this personal problem I've been having. The holidays are coming up. I've got social engagements that I've got to participate in. So I'd really appreciate if you could take this seriously.
Okay.
All right, listen to this problem I've been having and give me some honest feedback. Okay. All right.
Okay.
We all good? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
I'm ready.
All right. So here we go. I have a problem that it's okay. It's gonna sound autistic, but I cannot function in social settings unless I imagine myself as a Pokemon. Now, I don't go around saying Chestnut like a Pokemon move or anything. I just feel myself with the overall demeanor of the Pokemon, and I can pass off as a normie well with this. So I choose Pokemon generally that complement my personality. All right, my main three are Chestnut when I'm feeling quiet but confident, Sceptile when I'm feeling a bit smug/cocky, and Zoroark when I'm feeling a bit edgy. All right, I have a rotating list of Pokemon that I can use. It's very convenient. I've done Hawlucha, Gengar, Whimsicott, Claymation Excadrill. Sorry, these are my real thoughts. I'm reading from the top of my head. Hitmontop, Heracross, etc. But my problem is, all right, I have a Christmas party with my coworkers tonight, and I'm not sure which Pokemon I should be. I want to be a bit more outgoing and talkative than usual, but not too much. I had a bad experience with Sceptile this spring when I got a bit too confident, so I don't want to use him again. I'd like to try a Gen 7 Pokemon, but I'm not sure which one. I like Incineroar, but I feel like he would make me come across as an autist. I was actually thinking about Balio, but him not being real hurts me a little too much. So, do you guys have any ideas for a Pokemon that would be sociable and confident, but not too much so?
Damn, I gotta get a Gen 7
I'm happy to
one.
hear your suggestions.
I mean, I gotta look up the Gen 7 ones.
I actually recently
forever.
got into Pokemon, and it hurts because Zoroark is actually my favorite. So, and that, you know what? That's what just bothers me so much. Is like all my homies will clown me. They're like, "Wow, you're so edgy." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And then they just list off everything I'm into, and I'm just like, "All right, dog."
Feel free to sleep on it and get back to me. I'll be waiting. I don't know. My Christmas party's coming up. I'd really appreciate some fast responses on this, but I'll make do.
I'm going to show my age now. I don't know any Pokemon past the Ruby Sapphire generation, so it's
all right.
It does start to become a blur for me after Gen 4 a lot. Yeah, for sure. Dude, I thought this was going to be like the Driver copy pasta for a bit, where it's like I like to pretend that I'm normally awful socially, but sometimes I like to pretend that I'm Driver from Drive.
It's not too different.
I wear the jacket. I remember that just ends with him like having a girlfriend, and he's saying like, okay, now that I have, she actually saw Drive on Netflix or some show like that. It's like, oh, let's watch this, and I just kind of got scared and looked and said coolly, nah, doesn't really seem like my thing.
And he's saying that from the perspective of a man pretending to be the main character.
Yes, he's acting like Driver.
We can just move on. We don't have to dwell on this any longer.
Okay,
We're good.
I don't know enough about Pokemon, unfortunately, to give you a witty answer. I really want to, because that was a really funny copy pasta.
Wait, so what was it you needed again? Confident, but not what?
Confident, but not enough to get me accused of certain activities that I did when I was pretending to be Sceptile. I'm begging you. Anything.
You know what I think?
Sharpedo?
I'm seeing this one guy, Drampa. He seems a little bit confident. He seems a little bit old, but also like not. Yeah, he doesn't seem like he'd like shake the place up or anything.
Okay, you know what? I think you're right. Drampa's got that. He's got that aged charisma. He's like a George Clooney type.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
He's
That's
got
what I'm
the
thinking.
panache.
He's got a
okay,
mustache.
Drampa it is. No further exceptions or no further input is necessary. I will be Drampa. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk, everybody. All right. And with that, your contractual obligations are fulfilled for being on this episode of the Gamerzone. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad we all got to talk about our deepest passions and the things that we're doing right now. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Of course.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure, as always.
It was fun.
I'm glad we could chat.
Thanks for being a great host, man.
I try. I flatter myself that I make an effort. I really do. Thank you for noticing. And thank you, audience, for rewarding me monetarily on patreon.com/bestguyever.
Nice.
Also, I have a NordVPN sponsorship, so you could also feel free to engage with them. Is there anything you guys want to mention as plug-in anything, or just your channels, of course? Feel free. Let's go down the line. Mask, care to say what your things are?
Yeah, I have an OnlyFans. I just recently started posting feet pics because those were the top priority.
My self-esteem is tied directly to my income on my OnlyFans, so I would really appreciate if you guys could boost that. It's it's a 1-1 correlation kind of thing, so do me a favor here.
Yeah, but
you've got a YouTube. You do YouTube things.
I still I got my YouTube. If you want to see somebody talk about manga in possibly the most mediocre fashion capable, with a bit of a twist, you never know what you get in each video. I guess check me out. But it's more than just that. Sometimes I occasionally like to get into like things that I just enjoy in general. So. Just appreciate and thank you for having me on here. It's kind of surreal being here, in all honesty.
Hey, man, pleasure to have you. And I actually really I have trouble with this. I really like your style. Like your what is it? I can't watch anime. Like, I wish I had the ability to kind of capture a thought.
Oh, like the minimalist thumbnail thing?
Yeah. Well, the presentation is really slick, and the way that you took this kind of simple idea, I have such a bad habit of just overthinking all my ideas, and I'll take months to arrange something. So I like that. I encourage you to keep doing it because
what the trick is, real quick.
Like it.
I actually script none of my videos.
You script none of your videos.
Shit.
That can't be true.
No,
Couldn't be me.
They're all just kind of like from the top, and I just kind of go.
You're working with it. You're making it work, though. I respect that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I respect anyone who can do that, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mello, a.k.a. or Mello of Running Shine. What do you have to plug, if you care to?
Well, yeah, I got this one channel, Running Shine. I do a video around like once a year on a video game, but
Hey, that Mischief Makers video was dope.
Yeah,
I watched that before. It was good shit.
I try, they don't come out often, but we always put some work into them, and they're always fun.
Yeah.
They're more comedy based, and they're kind of all over the place. So
you really keep it snappy. Those are like classic like Red Letter Media style of just like the Plinkett reviews. It's good. It is fun. You provide the comedy and insightful commentary. Just the quality stuff that you're looking for, people. It's a subscription you're going to want to have. At least I think so.
Why did it get
I guess
so
no
quiet?
one agrees.
What?
I thought it wasn't my turn to speak there. I was just kind of like waiting
I
for.
was just like, well,
He didn't have the
you know what the
speaking
issue is? I
baton,
can't
so.
go like, yeah, it is. It's the best thing. 'Cause then everyone's like, oh.
Sure you can, man. Sure you can.
I have no such problem with that. But all right, so yeah, go check out his channel. Of course, all these are going to be linked below and stuff. And YIIK, aka Garnt, feel free to plug whatever you care to.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I'm pretty new to YouTube, guys. I've just started my
Yeah,
channel.
appreciate you.
Shut the fuck
Yeah,
up.
we're trying to get your name out there. You know, we do what we can.
You can check me out on YIIK. I also have another podcast as well. We're pretty small right now. It's Trash Taste. You know, we're just starting out. We're looking for some new viewers. So go check that out.
You know, based on your performance here, I wouldn't be optimistic about that. I just think that you just didn't provide what the people are looking for, and I hate to say it. But,
I know you're like, this is the best podcast I've ever been on because you've been such a wonderful host. You know,
I do my best. You know, I try.
Oh boy,
I'm just keeping it real, man. Maybe it's too real for you to handle, but actually, YIIK, you were one of the guys. I got into like heavy YouTube a little bit late, but you were one of the people I watched like early on. There was you, there was what's his name? Arcada. I used to watch you two guys like when I wanted to know, is this anime generally good? You were the go-to guys, but you always had a sweet spot for you. So
thank you very much, man.
It's a pleasure to have you on. It's an honor. Really appreciate you taking time to do it, and just want to let you know I appreciate your time.
No worries, man. It's been good to catch up and talk again. Hopefully it won't be another 4 years or whatever.
Yeah, let's do it sooner than that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. And I'll see everybody on the next episode of Gamerzone. These guys will be gone, but I'll still be here, probably. So we'll see about that real soon. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Say goodbye.
Peace.
There you go. Thank you.